look who it is. Mr. Rich Hribar joining the Podfather. Might have mentioned program. Pre-draft. We have a few days left here, a little over a week, and then the draft is upon us. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to believe we're already here again. The NFL offseason, I feel like it just gets expedited every offseason. It's like, oh, we're just ended and now we're drafting. You know, the free agency kind of was a whimper this year, and maybe that will be something that happens in the future because we've seen what NFL teams value now. We're starting to see NFL teams really grasp where to allocate, positional equity and things. So we're seeing fewer, offensive tackles hit free agency, fewer wide receivers hit free agency, obviously, quarterbacks outside the veteran market. Like, we're starting to see NFL teams really start to grasp this. And this was a really soft free agent class in that regard. So we'll keep it here. Maybe as a one-off and an anomaly, but
Aaron Jones got a 2-year extension. This is what we're talking about, right?
Yeah. It was rough. It was real rough for free agent write-ups. I mean, Christian Kirk was like a winner.
That was a win. That was a winner, right? And then the big Devontae Adams to Los Angeles. There wasn't a lot. There wasn't a lot. Najee Harris to the Chargers. Yeah. There's some that's relevant for fantasy. We had some fantasy relevant moves,
but very, very still low key stuff. Whereas last year we had that big intersection, and it influenced the fantasy landscape greatly. But we had that big intersection of veteran running back free agent market last year, proven players, combined with a shitty running back draft class, really propelled the contracts of those players. And then when you tie that over into what happened in the fantasy drafts, we had a very wide receiver aggressive fantasy community last year, and it made so much mid-round value at the running back position for those particular veteran guys that typically all change teams. You had the Aaron Jones, Kamara, didn't change teams. It was in that bucket, got an extension. It was on that thing. Joe Mixon, James Conner, all those guys ended
Josh
up
Jacobs
were big values in fantasy drafts. And we seen that coming. I mean, listen, man, if you followed the work I put out last year, we were on all those guys last year because of the depth charts those teams laying out. But that ain't happening this year. If you think you're going to roll back and think you're going to get a lot of mid-round values, this draft you're not going to have those situations where you just have those clear one guy on a depth chart that is a proven asset. That just isn't going to exist this year. We're just going to have so many running backs come in and impact depth charts in this draft class, and not just the guys that you believe are safe. I mean, it's these guys that are going to be roster hanger-ons, right? Are going to turn into like guys you were hoping were going to run into some opportunities, right? The Kendre Millers, the maybe Marshawn Lloyds, like those guys, Roschon Johnson that you've been holding on to for 2 years. Like, they're cooked. These guys are going to get cooked, man. Fry them up.
They're all dead. They're all dead across the board. They're all dead. I mean, I'll never forgive the Chris Olave over Saquon Barkley in best ball. That was a thing that happened last year, and I saw the draft with my own eyes, and that was unforgivable. So
Marvin Harrison Jr. at the 1-2 turn, absolute travesty. Absolute travesty of decision making, because you can point at some guys that didn't hit because of injuries, because you can point to the injury guys and say, all right, well, this guy had an injury, whatever, it didn't pan out. But like, we were taking Marvin Harrison Jr., not you and I, but like the community was taking Marvin Harrison Jr. over Saquon Barkley. And that on paper never made any goddamn sense.
No, that's just by ADP. I'm saying I saw drafts where Olave went ahead of Barkley. Just straight up ADP, the average drafter was going Harrison over Barkley, over Jonathan Taylor, and 10 picks ahead of Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
That's a thing that happened, everybody. That is a thing that happened. And now there's going to be a correction. The correction is already here. And this is a better year for zero RB than last year. I'll tell you that right now.
It's just very interesting because the people would always try to run back what worked last year in fantasy, and I feel like we're going to see some of that, this year. But we're just not going to have. I don't believe when the landscape settles, we're going to have that type of clear running back value that we had last year. Where, like I said, it was like very clear that Joe Mixon wasn't going to have any competition. It was very clear Derrick Henry wasn't going to have competition. It was very clear Aaron Jones wasn't going to have competition. James Conner, I guess you can say like he did, with Trey Benson, maybe isn't quite fit that archetype. Alvin Kamara was the most puzzling ADP of me last year. I went on multiple podcasts to talk about this. It's like, why is this dude going in the 5th and 6th round? This makes no sense. Because he also came with like the proven record of like, he's going to also catch 60 passes. Like, do you not want that guy? Like, I just don't believe when we settle this year, we're going to have those clear guys because of this rookie running back class. Like, this rookie running back class is just going to come in and fill so many gaps for rosters that need running backs. And then also running backs, we're going to have multiple teams take running backs where we're going to be like, oh, didn't see that one coming. That's just going to happen. Like, there's going to be multiple.
We're going to get into this throughout the show. I mean, this is going to be a constant theme of how this running back draft class will impact Dynasty. Last year on Fast Draft, the Flex 4 game, the winning team drafted Saquon Barkley. This is okay. In the 2nd round, right? First pick, Jamar Chase. 2nd round, Saquon Barkley. 3rd round, Derrick Henry. 4th round, Josh Jacobs. 5th round, Alvin Kamara. That was the winning team. So you follow that formula last year, you won $10,000. Congrats. Pretty easy. Pretty simple. That's Fast Draft. Pretty simple. Code Podfather. $50 deposit match on Fast Draft. Talk to us about Sharp Football. So that's where your analysis can be found. You are one of the best in the industry. You're my favorite analyst. And so talk to us about the last few pieces you put up there on Sharp Football and the podcast that you do.
Sharp Football Analysis. I'm doing all my work there all year. I could do basically like a living, breathing draft kit that starts with the rookie coverage and goes all the way through August. So basically you're going to have everything I put out this summer, over basically 100 articles, all gets put together. And, you have your draft kit, get you ready for the season. So check that out. I've been working on the team needs pieces as we approach the NFL draft. I'm going through every NFL offensive roster, including offensive line, and going through kind of where these teams are contractually. We're trying to find some of these spots where it's like, we're not as surprised if they do take one of these running backs. But I'm about
Bills.
About 22 teams in on that, kind of push the rest of those out throughout the end of this week. Those are all free on the site too. You can just go check those out. Ray Summerlin is doing the defensive side of the ball for those team need pieces. I do a podcast with him on the site. Definitely check that out. But
what's the name of that podcast?
It's Sharp Angles.
Sharp Angles podcast. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, so check that out. And then I always love you brought up that you gave me some kind words about having. I love coming on this show because I have always said this show is my Coors Field of podcasts. For some reason, because I give a lot of takes in the industry and a lot of bad takes. I'm process of giving a lot of takes, but for some reason, my batting average here on this particular podcast is just higher. It's just a few percentages higher than anywhere else.
You got a great uppercut.
Yeah, I've dubbed this my Coors Field. So I love coming here and giving some fire and some takes because just something in the air here. Stuff sticks to a greater degree.
You've had some incredible calls here. I mean, I want to say like Cooper Kupp's historic season. You were on that. I mean, we can go. Some of these rookie breakouts that you've called, and some of the things that you look at, not everybody looks at. Right? And like, how much does this player's pass protection, how much is going to impact his rookie year and maybe hold him back? We're going to get into it. Welcome to the Mind of Mansion program. Oh, he is the oracle of fantasy football. He is my man from Sharp Football. Here with me today, he has the stats. He has the track record. He has everything you need. My favorite analyst in all of fantasy football, it is Rich Hribar. Talk to me.
I feel like I need to, throw up the powder like LeBron. A lot of people don't know that I was the antithesis of this intro.
Correct.
Of the intro music. So
you invented it. I did that at one point without the music, and you said you should really lay down like a Bulls, Michael Jordan music with that. It would be great. And I said, let's do it. Let's go.
Yeah, absolute fire. I love it. How can you not get excited coming on a podcast that brings you in like that from North Carolina? Like, you love it, man.
Lord Reeves. Man, you really are, man. You really are. You really are the guy with the crystal ball. I tell you. I don't know. You say it's just this show.
I wish it was.
You really you look at some. You always hit me with. I mean, I run Player Profiler, and you're hitting me with stats that I was not aware of, that I did not know were even relevant for a particular player or a particular situation, and my mind is always blown. And so it's just a great pleasure to have you on. And
I appreciate it.
This particular draft class is very interesting. It's an enigmatic draft class. It's the polar opposite draft class from last year. How do you grade it overall for fantasy football?
It's pretty soft, and I say that though with the emphasis of it's still exciting. Anytime we get rookies added to the player pool, it's very exciting. It's the most active your dynasty league's going to be. It's kind of getting everyone's wheels going. You'll see more trades made. Everyone just has more activity, a little more bounce in their step in their dynasty leagues right now, no matter what, even if it is a softer draft class, on paper in totality, especially coming off of last year, we just had blue chip player after blue chip player. I mean, the number of offensive players taken in the top 50 last year, I can't remember if it was a record or not, but I definitely was up there. And that has a direct, carryover into how exciting your rookie drafts are. And, we were talking about, before the show a little bit, you were able to get like Lad McConkey at like regularly like 108 last year. Like 108 is almost like a no man's land spot this year. Like you don't know what to do. I definitely feel like when we step away from this draft, a decade from now, we're going to look back and say that, middle first round picks, late first round picks ended up being less valuable than they were in a typical rookie draft. I think second round picks are going to look more valuable than they were in just a blanket season. Potentially third round picks also looking more valuable, just because, we are going to have hits along the way. And we're hoping we're going to have hits with just being able to buckshot this running back position. But we have one clear blue chip guy in Ashton Jainty. We have, I believe, another blue chip guy in Travis Hunter, but there is kind of a weird thing orbiting his situation that's unique for fantasy football that kind of has some people 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So he becomes a potential value even in your fantasy drafts. But this is a clear sellout for 101 year. There's the gap from 101 to 102, I think, is absolutely just seismic. And if you can trade up for Ashton Jainty, you do it. Even if it looks like an overpay, you do it. I don't think that, because I think in this particular class where a lot of people would just take the free money and say like, hey, I'm going to get a first round pick this year, get a future first, and just let the value fall on my roster. Like, I just don't know if that exists this year, because it depends where you move down to, what you can get in this class. And then, like I said, JT's one of these guys I want on my roster. He's just one of these guys I think that's going to have at least one season that basically wins you a season. And sometimes that happens years later, right? Saquon Barkley, there were people like, Saquon Barkley wasn't really worth that rookie pick. Those last 3 years with the Giants, pretty mediocre. You talked about it. It pushed him below guys like Chris Olave and Marvin Harrison in drafts last year. Going to the freaking Eagles. I wrote about this in the tiers last year. I was like, this feels like a pretty clear, overthink it situation. Like when you have Saquon Barkley joining the Eagles. Like,
well, how about Derrick Henry joining the Ravens?
Yeah, I mean, that's
like an even better fit than Barkley to the Eagles. And yet he was going around later than that.
But JT, I think, is going to give us a year eventually where it's just like he has a year that wins you a season. He's that type of player, and I just want that type of player on my roster, especially when there's only one of those guys available in the draft. So to me, it's a clear sellout for 101 year if you can.
But isn't it possible that Henderson or Judkins can also be that guy? Because they were cannibalizing each other, and if they had the backfield to themselves, they could have there could have been competition for who this RB1 is going to be from this class, that because they were on the same team, Genty is so clearly the RB1.
Yeah, I mean, in the range of outcomes, like especially a running back, one injury or just something, or just one guy falling into an optimal spot, like can hit. It just, on paper, finding those guys, there still is a larger gap, I believe, from Genty to the tier 2 running backs. But yeah, absolutely exists in the range of outcomes as it's a non-zero. Henderson would be the one guy I think that's probably the most exciting, just because of what he brings in terms of what his archetype has made a transition in the NFL. Even a couple years ago, you'll full-heartedly like discounted Jahmyr Gibbs a little bit because of his archetype. That player, that 100 to 80, 220 touch player has just become an increased value player in the NFL, given that we're seeing fewer players get 300 touches, even with the 17-game season. We're seeing more compartmentalized backfields, and like that player has just become more valuable and had more of a pipeline, more of an increased chance to turn in an RB1 season than it did a decade ago when I was, in the throes of, like taking off as an analyst and, playing a lot of fantasy football. That player was more limited. And now we've seen that door kind of get kicked down because of the RB landscape in general and how teams are handling running backs. So TreVeyon Henderson has that ability, I think, to give you an RB1 season, even if he shares the backfield and it's like right around that like 180 to 200 touches, because of what he can do in terms of electricity per touch, explosive play per touch, and then what he gives you in terms of being able to catch passes out of the backfield, like a Gibbs or like an Achane, like what the impact that they've had in fantasy the past 2 years. Like he has that type of outcome, even as a 200 touch running back. And then if you somehow run into the optimal outcome where it's like, well, what if he gets 250 to 300 touches? Then you're absolutely just cooking with gas, man. Like you're catching fire. So Henderson is the one guy that definitely is exciting from like a range of outcome stance to say like, oh yeah, if this all comes together, like this is the type of player that could be just non-combative for fantasy football as well. Whereas Hampton, if you're drafting in these drafts now, he comes with a little more insulation because he has that already pedigree of being a 220-pound back, has a proven workhorse running back, then checked all the boxes from a physical profile. The spring, he has a little more insulation in that regard, where he's maybe a little bit more safer pick than Henderson. But Henderson, man, if it all does get put to, like, so then this NFL draft, I said before we got on, is going to be more of a North Star than previous years. Like Henderson, particularly versus Hampton, because Henderson's drawing non-zero to be taken over Hampton still. Like if a team values like what Henderson brings to the table, like especially Denver, right? Like think of like Henderson in a Sean Payton offense. Think of the shitty dudes that he's had in that role that have been awesome. Like what he's created, like in terms of like a pass catching type of role, and like the upside that type of running backs had in his offenses, and like putting TreVeyon Henderson in that offense, man, in that type of system would be absolutely mind blowing. That would be like one of those spots if like Denver's like, no, we value him over Hampton, and they take him over him, like, man, he's going to absolutely vault him in rookie drafts too. So like that, he's the most exciting, I think, player from just like a ceiling range of outcome to combat JT. But yeah, that's where I'm at with him.
Alvin Kamara in 2020, 25.2 fantasy points per game. He was the RB1 on 187 rush attempts.
Mm-hmm.
The next year, he had 240 rush attempts. So he had more than 50 rush attempts, higher than the previous year. And yet his fantasy points dipped by more than 7 per game. That is just how the variance can go back and forth year to year with running backs. What's the difference? The touchdowns, 21 touchdowns versus 9 touchdowns. The touches, it's not that, it doesn't much matter if you're an Alvin Kamara level player. If you're Gibbs, If you're Henderson, this is why, man. This is the path for Henderson to outproduce Genty, is to be in this kind of role on this kind of offense where year in, year out, you can see him putting up 23 fantasy points per game one year, 25 fantasy points per game another year. Again, both years where Alvin Kamara put up more than 20 fantasy points per game, he didn't get to 200 rush attempts in either year.
Yeah.
So that would be the bet, right?
He doesn't even have 1,000
If you were betting on a guy to outperform Genty, it would have to be Henderson for that reason.
Yes.
Bingo.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you in that regard. So it's like, if we come out, because post-draft, like, I mean, he could easily be cemented as 102 in that outcome. So
you got to be drafting him on fast draft.
I was
Origins
bummed,
all rookie game. You got to be drafting Henderson, man. Henderson goes too late in a lot of these drafts.
He just went 109 in a draft I'm in right now, a live draft, a real league that I'm in.
A real rookie draft? A Dynasty rookie draft?
I'm in several. I've talked about this on the show. I'm in several where we draft before the NFL draft because I believe that it is the optimal way to play. It makes you have conviction on your picks. It also creates more of a more of a variance in how gamers treat the draft picks, right? Because a lot of gamers aren't like us. They're not listening to your podcast. They're not getting in the weeds on all these rookies. They just let the NFL draft dictate like kind of what the draft capital is going to be for them. But when you remove that from those gamers who aren't investing a lot of research into the draft, they then are like, well, shit, I don't even value these picks. And they just trade them for veterans and stuff. So like you have this hodgepodge of increased variance of how gamers are handling the actual rookie draft in your league too. So I believe it's the most optimal way to play. Obviously, you got to get everyone on board with it. Not everyone is in the weeds on these rookies like we are, but it is the best way to play. But I had pick 110 in that draft. So seeing Henderson go 109 and being able to jump and get to that pick was a gut-wrenching experience for me because the cliff and the level of player I got at 110 was not Travion Henderson.
Yeah, there were questions whether we should even launch this Origins rookie game before the draft or wait until after the draft. And we were like, no, all rookie best ball. People want it, man. People want to be drafting rookies in March during the combine. There's all this analysis. There's all these people talking about rookies. Give them a place to monetize this advice. $25,000 prize pool, $5,000 to first. Draft just happened. Travion Henderson goes at the 108 after Judkins, after Caleb Johnson, after Shedeur Sanders, after Tet McMillan. That makes no sense. This is a tournament setting where you upside is at a premium, and Travion Henderson somehow slips to the 108. I mean, there's not many drafts left, and the thing is going to fill. If it's 96% full now, but we will have a chaos version of Origins coming out, where as soon as this fills, Chaos will open up, and then that'll run through the NFL draft. So you'll be able to draft live for money during the actual NFL draft as these guys are landing in different positions. And a point that you made, which is really interesting, these rookies are going to create chaos on NFL rosters. But it's not just about chaos. It's not just about, it's all going to shake itself out. And then on Monday, when most rookie drafts are scheduled for, right, early May, it's all going to shake out. We'll know where these guys are at. And then most of player values will just sort of, level out based on where these guys went, and we'll all move on with life. That's not actually what's going to happen. These guys are going to necessarily siphon touches away from established veterans, not just supplant number 2 and number 3 running backs on depth charts. We know that's going to happen. We've been talking about that for 2 months. Right. We've been putting out the links to go get your real estate license for all these RB2s and RB3s. You can get it's a free course to get a real estate license. I put it on Twitter. It's on the internet. Go, please, get a head start on this, Ty Johnson and Ronnie Rivers and everybody else. But it's not just them. It's RB1s that you talked about this, where you could lock in the touches, 200-plus touches, lock it in, 250-plus touches, lock it in on team after team after team after team last year. This class is going to land and it create a tsunami of touches across the touch stealing across the NFL, across these depth charts, where from Mixon to Kamara to Swift to the list is most teams, 25 plus teams, the primary back is going to suffer from some touch dilution.
Absolutely. We're going to have, like I said, some surprising guys in that area too. I mean, there are teams that I just believe are outright going to take running backs, and then there are teams that are just going to surprise us, where we have, like you said, the Trey Mason year, the Trey Mason to Todd Gurley, or the Kenneth Walker to Charbonnet. Like, well, why'd they do that? Like, there's going to be a lot of those too as well. If there's one shortcoming I think this draft class could have on itself, is that I think it could cannibalize itself in terms of like the 2 down running back role. I think that there's too many of those guys in this class. So like, you might have a chance, you might have a thing where, say like the Dallas Cowboys or one of these running back needy teams, or someone just wants to fill an early down banger role. They might, on one hand, say like, we'll just wait and take a guy late, because typically the guys that are going to be available at RB15 are better than previous years, and they're going to that's how we'll get our guy. But we're also going to have some guys go in that area and then fall on just quagmires of depth charts with other talented players. So if that's the one shortcoming this draft class could have, it is kind of, I think, what is that 2 down running back in the NFL, because from our neck of the woods, the fantasy football landscape, if you don't have an access to receptions, you better be scoring a truckload of touchdowns. Like, that role has to be able to score a lot of touchdowns. It's a Derrick Henry role, right? Like, Derrick Henry has never caught passes in his NFL career. Jonathan Taylor, like that archetype of running back has to score a lot of touchdowns. They have to flirt with not even 10 touchdowns, but maybe push 20 to be like a legitimate RB1. And this draft class has a litany of these guys that just have really sketchy receiving game profiles. And that aspect of the draft could cannibalize itself a little bit. There definitely can be a scenario where your favorite guy from that archetype gets pushed down. Mine happens to be Damian Martinez, but I am totally approaching the draft knowing that Damian Martinez can totally get boned by this draft class as well. So it's one of these things we're going to have to watch. I definitely believe that this NFL draft is more of a North Star and has more of an impact on rookie drafts than any rookie class that I've done, because we only have a couple blue chip guys, and then the tiers are wide and vast, and it's going to get shaken up by these landing spots.
And we know that running back is situation dependent more than most positions. So if it's a running back heavy class, then necessarily the landing spots will matter more for this class than other classes. Whereas last year, because there were wide receivers, the ADPs were pretty stable pre-draft to post-draft. These ADPs are highly volatile depending on where these guys end up landing. And it's one of the reasons why this draft class cannot compete with last year. It straight up cannot compete with 2024, because there were so many players in 2024 that had standalone value that did not necessarily displace production from other players. They just simply made their offenses better. Whereas this class is more just about, hey, we have a bunch of touch stealers in this draft, so all you veterans better be careful. And then not only are there a bunch of touch thieves, but also they're cannibals. They're touch thief cannibals, because they're going to cannibalize themselves. So the players from their own class are at risk from themselves, plus all the veterans are at risk, and they're not really adding a lot of total fantasy point production to the fantasy landscape. That, if you had to pinpoint the reason why this class is not in the same category, the same tier as last year, that would be the reason.
Yeah, and it could even be some of these first round picks, like we said, like you talked about Judkins is in an ADP. Like, it's even Hampton, who's kind of been early the consensus 102. He could easily fall into a backfield where they just feel like they have a better receiving option. He never gets access to those that 3 down touch workload that he does profile that he can handle and has handled these last 2 years in North Carolina. But it totally exists in his range of outcomes to land in a spot where with the receiving back, so it's just really kind of tough you could have all these guys get cannibalized as early as, Jainty, and even, maybe even he, falls into a spot, but it's like, if he goes to the Raiders or whatever, listen, man, if the Raiders take a running back at 6, especially with Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly on there, buddy, you just lean into that. You just lean into that player. but I mean,
how much would you love the Raiders with that offensive skill position configuration.
I mean, just that coaching staff, you would have so much faith that they're just going to give that player so many touches, and then you would just let football Jesus take the wheel, right? Like you're like, if I just know that, because opportunity is the name of the game.
But isn't that perfect though? Because
yeah,
it's perfect because their number one receiver happens to be a tight end, right? And then
right.
it's just it sets up so perfectly where they. I mean, that would be the dream landing spot. The fact that they are in range and one of the favorites to draft Genty, and that given that particular depth chart, it's just,
and even if they pass,
it's so perfect.
They pick what, 36 is their second round pick. So like even they're drawing live that for that player at the top of round 2 to be a really good. If they go McMillan 6 or they go offensive line at 6, because they're in that weird spot where like anyone can fall too in this class. So yeah, the Raiders are going to be, they're like the top team to watch though, just because of the Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly connection, right? Like we know what they want to do.
Yeah, and the receiver is like a possession receiver. Their number one receiver is Jacoby Myers, right? I mean, it's just,
and he's a free agent. He's a free agent after this year too. So that's another, like they have needs. But that's the one thing I see. Like even these first round running backs, you brought the Judkins, Caleb Johnsons, like they could fall into a spot where even though it's a good spot, like they lose out on the touches that could cap some of their fantasy ceiling just because of the quality of this class at the running back position. So then we're going to see teams take 2 running backs too, like off of that. Like there will be teams like the Bears are definitely are a team that realistically could take 2 running backs too.
Oh, there's so many teams. There's probably 10 teams that could take 2 running backs.
So even if you get out with that guy, like you said, I'm doing this draft right now. And one of the other things that the drafting early, it makes you a fan of the draft, right? It makes you sweat the draft a little bit. Like let's say, hypothetically, you're a Bashal Tutin guy. And you're like, I'm a Bashal Tutin guy. I want to be aggressive. I'm going to take him my rookie draft because I want to be ahead of the NFL drafting him. And then Bashal Tutin gets drafted by the 49ers in round 2. Like you're going absolutely nuts. Like you're absolutely like, oh my God, I got so much equity. Like I created, like I was ahead of the curve. And then in round 4, they take someone else. And you're like, oh, son of a bitch. Like that's going to be this year is there's going to be a guy that goes in round 2 and you're going to be like, yes, this is so exciting. And then in round 4, that team's going to take another running back and you're like, damn it. Like that's going to totally play out this year in a few spots.
Dude, I mean, there's going to be a lot of touches that get siphoned away, man. Oh my, it's just, it's going to be very interesting, but there's some teams like Dallas that they've showed us time and time and time again, we want them to draft a running back early. We want them to sign a running back in free agency, and they just refuse. How long do they have to keep telling us what their philosophy is before we believe them? They're not going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, again, not after Zeke. And that's what the weird thing about the Steelers thing is for me, is a lot of people are projecting the Steelers to take a running back at 20, at 21. And it's like they just took their last first-round running back that they just let walk in free agency. And they traded their second-round pick to acquire DK Metcalf, which is high capital. So it's like, that's another thing. I just don't think they're going to do it. Like, I just don't believe they're going to take a first round running back. And then because they don't have a second round pick that now pushes them into the third round, which creates just a little bit of more life for Jaylen Warren. But they also have visited with 1,000 running backs. They're going to take one probably at some point. So, but yeah, I would be surprised if still we get more than 3 in the first round.
Give me 3 teams that you think will make fantasy gamers very upset. Like, hey, I drafted this running back recently with, some significant rookie draft capital, and now he may not have a job. And I did not see this coming, and you don't even have that many picks, and you definitely don't need to draft a running back. What the hell are you doing? There's going to be some all caps posts on Twitter X when certain teams draft running backs. There's going to be a few. Let's talk about give me at least 3 surprise teams. Hey, they're going to draft a running back, people, like it or not.
Let's look at Dynasty, like ADP or Dynasty ranks, and we'll go down. The first one that stands out to me is Jonathan Taylor, for sure. Jonathan Taylor has missed multiple games in each of the past 3 years. In all 3 seasons outside of the stint of Zach Moss, their depth has been exposed. Their non-Jonathan Taylor running backs were a disaster last year. Definitely a team that I believe is going to draft at one insulation for Jonathan Taylor. And then remember, Jonathan Taylor is an archetype of a fantasy back. Is he already isn't catching any passes. He's caught 120 passes the past 2 years. So he needs to score a lot of touchdowns. This could be kind of a thorn in him. That he's not going to get relegated, though, to your point of like he's going to become a zero. It's just, no. I do believe the Colts are drafting a running back, and it's going to have an impact on Jonathan Taylor's actual fantasy output. The first one, though, that stands out is James Cook. And obviously some of that is James Cook self-doing, saying he wants $15 million already 2 years out. Like 2 years out of a contract. So he might be creating his own bed a little bit. But so Buffalo definitely stands out as a team that could be surprises and take a running back. And Joe Brady has been very run heavy since he's taken over as the OC. Yeah. Very run heavy. Oh, and one thing we didn't talk about either about this draft class that could actually be a pro is if you're drafting running backs of that 2-down archetype, you better be praying to hell that tush push gets banned. Like, that's significant. That's significant if it gets banned, because when you look at quarterback rushing touchdowns, they come in that inside the 5 area at that 1-2 yard line area. So like you want them to lose those touches, the small amount of quarterbacks. So could be a thing. But then James Cook is the next guy that pops up. The Bengals are the next team that pop up, with Chase Brown, obviously. Very small sample of Chase Brown, carrying the workload. But this is a team that I would say doesn't need to take a running back. I would just say then just know that they're drawing live to take one.
No. I think most people, those that have Chase Brown in Dynasty, have come to terms with this. They don't have any depth behind Chase Brown. They're going running back. I mean, they're meeting with Travion Henderson, but they're going running back. I think we know that.
Yeah. Then we're moving down, like where Dynasty ranks. So Seahawks are a team. I know that probably is like Seahawks are like, no way they're taking a running back, right? Kenneth Walker's unrestricted free agent. They have a ton of day 2 picks, an absolute smorgasbord of day 2 picks. So they could be looking at this year out saying, hey, we're going to let Kenneth Walker walk. No pun intended there.
Oh, I love it. We're going to let Kenneth Walker walk, dude.
You have the Patriots, right? Like the Patriots absolutely are going to be a team that's going to be live, because the Patriots are in a mode where they just need to be drafting offensive weapons for Drake May. Like you just need to draft good offensive players right now if you're the Patriots. You have one plan of attack, and it's just to get as many good offensive players around Drake May as possible. The Jaguars absolutely drawing live to take a running back. Travis Etienne's in the last year of his contract. He actually was on the 5th-year option anyways. They have a new regime. Also, Liam Cohen has shown he loves to use that dual backfield too. They're drawing live. Texans are an easy call. Obviously, Joe Mixon being hit his age. Giants, Giants have visited with running backs. They're taking running backs. Chiefs. Chargers, who just signed Najee Harris to only a 1-year deal. It's just
we know a lot of these we know.
Put on the list.
A lot of these we know. But the surprise one that you listed, the most surprising one, Seattle. Look where Seattle's drafting. They're drafting at 82, right behind the Colts and Bengals, who you already mentioned, and the Texans. Look at this: Texans, Colts, Bengals, Seahawks, Steelers.
Yep.
Those are picks 79 through 83. So Seahawks pick there, but then again, they pick down here too. So in the Geno Smith trade, pick 92 is the Seahawks. You're right. This smells like a running back here. Oh man. Oh God. No way. That's actually really bad for Charbonnet.
Probably.
Oh Jesus, that's terrible for Charbonnet. I think you better trade Charbonnet now. That's the thing. We've talked about this many times on the show. There's like 2 teams that it's going to be very difficult to see them drafting a running back. The Buccaneers, because they like all 3 running backs on their roster. Okay, there's very few teams that like all 3 running backs. They like Sean Tucker.
Rachaad White's another guy. Contracts up, rookie contracts up, free agent. Are they going to re-sign him?
I mean, okay, no team is safe, right? But there are some teams that are on the safer side. Like Sean McVay and the Rams have drafted a lot of running backs. They were the original team that created the Trey Mason corollary, right? They drafted Todd Gurley and created the terminology, hey, this running back has just been Trey Masoned. So, and that wasn't the same coaching staff, but it's the same team, and Sean McVay may do something that we don't see coming. So they're a team that's difficult to predict what they're going to do in the draft, the Rams. So the Rams would be the other team where you look at their depth chart and you're like, okay, they just used a 3rd-round pick on a backup running back. They seem fine at running back. The Bucs seem fine at running back. But even these teams are not a lock to leave the draft without a running back.
Someone in the chat threw Atlanta out, and Tyler Algier is a free agent, unrestricted free agent at the end of this season. They could get ahead of that and add a guy just for insurance. Like there's nothing. There's I don't know if there's anyone that's off the table.
No teams are off the table. The Lions want to upgrade on Craig Reynolds.
Yeah, a lot of these teams have had injuries. Yeah, absolutely, man.
This is crazy. I think but it's fine. Okay, day 3 running back goes to Detroit, goes to Atlanta, goes to the Buccaneers, might not even make the roster.
But that's where we talked about. It could be
Los
your
Angeles.
favorite early down guy, right? Like
it's going to be an early down guy.
The Lions are just in a draft-rich class, are like, hey, David Montgomery's gotten nicked up the past 2 years. We've had to go to Gibbs and give him full workloads. And us as fantasy gamers have loved that because those weeks that we've had Jahmyr Gibbs, that David Montgomery we've seen the untapped CMC potential of Jahmyr Gibbs. And we would hate to see that. But that's where your guy, that if you like Damian Martinez, they take him, you're like, well, shit, that's ruined. Like, yeah, that's ruined now.
It's bad for David Montgomery. It's not really that bad for Jahmyr Gibbs. That's the nice thing about drafting. That's another reason to draft Travion Henderson in a rookie draft over one of the other options in that tier. Especially for they're a little more protected.
Backs. Well, especially for the top of the running back class. When you're looking at the top running backs in terms of ranks or where they're being projected, something like mock draftable, Henderson is the one guy after JT that has outs where even if that team took another running back, you're drafting Travion Henderson off the surface for a particular reason and what he brings. The other guys can still get arbitraged the rest of the way out. So he is I believe is to be the safest non-JT guy after that, because we know that he's going to have that role initially in the passing game.
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy that had 19 touchdowns as a true freshman. And 1,200 plus.
Because Hampton can still fall on a depth chart where he's with a good receiving back that still exists in the range of outcomes. So even he's not foolproof.
Henderson is very safe, very, very safe. This running back class overall, the way you keep sort of diminishing it in a very fairly, by the way. Right.
I mean, it can cannibalize itself.
I mean, these guys, you have players that caught 20 passes a season, but they're not actually strong receivers, like an RJ Harvey, like a DJ Giddens. They're not quite what the box stuffing backs that their stat lines might indicate. For that reason, you think this is more of a 2018 class than a 2017 class? It's more of a Barkley class?
I do, just because you have the one clear guy and then good players. I do think that though the depth of this class is a lot better than the years it gets compared to. It's just, again, does that end up being a gift and a curse? Because there is potential. It is a gift and a curse as well. Just because the quality of backs that are going to be available on day 3 are just going to be much better than they have been in previous seasons. And we still have a finite number of jobs, even for that list of things the list of teams we talked about taking running backs. I mean, especially from an early down perspective, because that's the stuff for fantasy football that becomes a problem. If you're not catching passes in fantasy football, if your running back's not catching passes, you're replaceable. If you're an RB2, like there's a whole reason anchor running back and zero running back became a thing. And it's because people realized like baseline RB2 production on your fantasy roster is actually one of the large, like the least valued things you can have. If you're just a baseline RB2, that's you from positional leverage stance, it's kind of gross, and people kind of became cognizant of that in the fantasy streets in the past decade. And so if we end up with a bunch of those guys, you were going to look back on this and say like, oh yeah, those were good players and they were good real life players, but for fantasy football, like none of those like guys made a real impact.
Yeah, we're talking about like a slightly more explosive versions of Tank Bigsby's. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
there's a chance this class is actually quite bad. Looking back, we might look back on this class. It is quite bad because a lot of these running backs, I like them. I think they're cool players. Like I enjoy them, and I want to go draft them. I really do, and they're exciting. They run like a 4.4. Giddens runs a 4.43. RJ Harvey runs a 4.4 flat. These are exciting players. I was excited by Tevin Coleman, but we have a lot of Tevin Colemans in this class, and we have a lot of receivers that look more like Marquez Callaway than they do Justin Jefferson.
That's why it goes back. That's why it goes back to my two initial points. One, I want to sell it for 101 if I can, and then two is why I believe the draft actually is going to be more of a North Star than previous years because. Again, in saying what I just said, it still only takes one team. You only need that one team to believe in Damian Martinez and draft him higher than he should be or land in a spot that could accentuate his fantasy runway. It takes one team to draft an RJ Harvey. It only takes one team to draft a DJ Giddens. It only takes one team to draft an Ollie Gordon. It only takes one to put them in a position to at least be in a spot to have that surplus value. So that's why I go back to my initial point of saying like this draft class feels more draft dependent from a rookie draft landscape than previous years. And we haven't even gotten to the receivers yet. And that also is going to be like, because the tiers are just so wide and they're so flat in this rookie class.
It's a KMG King in the chat. Can't let us forget. The 49ers drafting a running back, for sure.
Of course. Oh, well, then that's happening.
That is happening. But it's just, they're not the first team you think of because, CMC's there, and they hit on Garendo a little bit.
I mean, the Dolphins are a team, when you look at their draft capital and where their holes are on their roster, they have absolutely no business taking a running back in this class, and guess what they'll probably do?
They're going running back. Dolphins are going running back. Jalen Wright, gone. Bye-bye. But for that reason, though, if I'm an NFL GM, I am going to be making calls weeks in advance to try to figure out which of these running backs, like a Jalen Wright, are going to get cut. This is another reason why, just based on supply and demand, you shouldn't be drafting a running back early. There's so much talent in this class, and it's going to be available in day 3. A lot of it in day 3. A lot of these guys are going to be available in day 3. And then the guys that have to be accommodated for are going to get cut at the end of August. And so you could scoop up. You could go into camp with just, some fringe guys and take a couple UDFAs from this class, because there's going to be some really high-quality UDFAs coming out of this class. We know it.
And that's the other part, too, is, there's just going to be, it's going to be because it's still going to be a finite number of running backs picked. So, we're not going to see probably 30 running backs get taken in the actual draft. Typically, it's around 20. So, in this class probably runs 25 deep on quality players. So they're just not going to get picked. They're
not going to get picked. So you have to have these agents prepared. Hey, make these phone calls in advance.
Well, you're also going to see a bidding war. You're going to see some of these UFAs get more money kind of thrown at them because of the quality of player they are after the draft, because then it's free reign.
Oh, yeah. And you have to be on the phone constantly. You have to have multiple assistant general managers with what number are we willing to go to with all these UDFAs. So, I mean, you'd have to have a list of 20, 30 UDFA running backs, and you're just calling all these agents on a loop trying to get them signed, that would be the move. You go into this going, hey, we could take the easy road and we could draft a running back in the second round, or we could take the harder road and get a guy that's 80% of the running back you would get in the third round. You can get him as a UDFA. We just need to crank on the phones and outbid these other teams by whatever it is, $100,000. It's not a lot of money. It's just $100,000 here, $100,000 there. You fill out your roster. You go through camp with like 6 running backs. You end up finding 3 guys that are going to make final cuts, and then even those guys aren't safe because you're going to go find some guys that got cut from other teams, and you're going to backfill them with those guys. That would be the way to do it if I were running a team.
Yeah, or if I was, like we brought up a little bit too, if I was a team really knocking on the door too, I would look at like what we brought up, those situations, and maybe try to pry one of those guys. If I'm the Commanders, I'm calling Seattle and the Jets and just saying, what is Kenneth Walker? What is Breece Hall? What are you, if you're not going to extend these guys, because the Jets are in a real bad spot, because it's not only Breece Hall is not eligible for the 5th-year option because he was a second-round pick, but then look at the Jets roster. This is where, if you're a Jets fan, I do sympathize for you, because the Jets have actually drafted well in recent years, but because they never got quarterback right, it ruined a lot of their draft picks, and now they're going to pay the price because they have to extend not only Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson is up, Sauce Gardner is up, Elijah Vera Tucker is up, John Simpson is up, and it's like you can't extend all these guys now, and you're penalized now for drafting well because you never got quarterback right. So that's
won't that with Garrett Wilson in particular? Won't you at least get the benefit of you won't have to pay him quite as much because he hasn't been able to put up the numbers?
You would hope, but we know the receiver market, it's its own monster right now.
They're paying Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson. They're paying them.
Yes.
That they're paying them. So yeah, it's a good problem. That is a good problem to have.
And I know that there's been some dynasty frustration maybe for Garrett Wilson, or maybe even Jets fans saying Garrett Wilson hasn't made the complete jump. But I mean, dude, look at just go down the list of quarterbacks. He has 3,000 yard receiving seasons from like the worst quarterback. Like these are the quarterbacks he's caught pass from: Zach Wilson, Mike White, Joe Flacco, Chris Streveler, Trevor Siemian, Tim Boyle, Tyrod Taylor, and the ghost of Aaron Rodgers. Like, I'm pretty sure that guy's a good football player. You better pay him.
He's only getting 150 targets per season. At the beginning of his career, that's what he's averaging. At the beginning of his career. And he's producing, even sharing a field with Devontae Adams, with the slowest playing quarterback of my lifetime. He is the buy of all buys. He's the guy that you want to be maximum exposed to in best ball, and he's the guy you want to be trading for in Dynasty.
The bummer is short term. We ran down that list of quarterbacks and didn't list his current quarterback, who, since he entered the NFL, Justin Fields, he has an 18.2% inaccurate throw rate to wide receivers.
Oh, God.
The only quarterbacks worse than that since he's entered the NFL are Aiden O'Connell, 1 year of Caleb Williams. That's it. So,
well, the only shining light there, the glimmer, is 16.9 fantasy points per game for DJ Moore.
Yeah, you just hope that the volume runs through.
Yeah, 2023, DJ Moore puts up 17 fantasy points per game with Justin Fields on 136 targets. So that, to me, that's a little more than a glimmer. That's a goddamn ray. That's a ray of light, man.
You're hoping.
I am.
But if it runs,
give me a better all-purpose strong buy in drafts and trade across all formats right now than Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I'd have to rack my head to see.
Easy.
I still would buy those players that are good, that haven't proven that they got over the hump, like him and Olave, right? And Olave's in the same boat. We have no damn clue who's going to be throwing him the football this year, especially now with like this Derek Carr thing. I don't know if you guys caught this, but 2 weeks ago it was Derek Carr's birthday. and the Saints social media account like tweeted him happy birthday. I had never seen like the replies to this tweet were absolutely like I was like you would think Derek Carr like murdered children. Like, oh my God, dude. Like the replies to this. I encourage everyone to go find this tweet. It's Saints own social media account tweeted out, and just the replies, the vitriol of wishing Derek Carr happy birthday was absolutely insane. And now Derek Carr might not even be able to play for them. And they had the
They're
worst
mad about that.
And their team just went 0-7 without Derek Carr playing for them last year. Think of how mad they were that Derek Carr was playing for them, and the guys behind him were absolutely heinous. And again, no pun intended, but with hainer. But like, they went 0-7 without him. The difference between Derek Carr on the field last year was the difference of being 9th in the NFL in plays per game to 31st, and that's Derek Carr, like someone we inherently know you aren't going to win a Super Bowl with. Like, it feels so sorry for these. At least the Saints are in a position. Granted, you never know what the F Mickey Loomis is going to do. Mickey Loomis is Papa Bluth from Arrested Development. He's always there's money in the banana stand. Like, so you don't know. He could trade up to 2. The Saints could have the second pick by the time we're a week and a half from now, knowing Mickey Loomis. He's never traded down in the first round. He loves burning draft capital. Like, who knows what the Saints are going to do, man? They could do anything.
Was it definitely the Saints account?
Yeah, I'm pretty positive. Here, I'll put it in the chat. Maybe.
Well, let's see something. So we've got something here. This isn't the Saints account necessarily. This is ML Football. So ML Football. When we scroll down at ML Football, happy birthday to Saints quarterback Derek Carr, turning 34 years old today. 4-time Pro Bowler. Okay.
No, that wasn't it.
Okay, but now let's look some of these replies. This is what you're talking about.
Is it on your screen? What's the tweet that tweeted? Because they also tagged Invisalign, which was hilarious because Invisalign got dragged into all these replies. It's like, damn, what did Invisalign do?
Well, they do have Saints fans holding guns to their head. So that is a thing that we're seeing on Twitter, X. So I don't know.
Absolutely.
I looked for the actual Saints. There was the actual Saints Twitter handle. If we find that, if anyone wants to put that in the chat, we'll show that as well. But it's bleak, man. It's bleak. And Saints fans are passionate fans. They really are. And it's they're so far away from being competitive that they just need to lean into the rebuild, man. Lean into the rebuild. Just go full line.
So I have it. It was 100% the account. I'm going to put it in this. Can I put it in this chat here?
Yeah, put it in the chat.
I am a boomer. They do it in the comments or guest chat.
You could put it in the guest chat. You could put it in the interview chat.
I put it in guest chat.
I got it. We got it.
That's
we got it, dude. We're there. We are there.
Everyone's favorite part of the podcast.
It is being pulled up as we speak. Happy birthday, Derek Carr, sponsored by Invisalign.
Yeah, it's so good. Like Invisalign got tagged into this. So like,
why is it sponsored by Invisalign?
No one knows.
Does he use Invisalign?
Everything's sponsored. Well,
Turn the comments off.
Our guy Laquan from NFL.com is first there. Just turn the comments off.
All right, so I'm going to repost this. Turn the comments off. No one's reposted it. I'll repost it. Oh boy.
This is There's a lot of this. Man.
This is really good. This is good. Yeah.
Oliver just wishing a dude happy birthday. You just feel bad for it. Like this thing, just going down through this, you feel bad for it. But
fuck him. God bless him though. Trash quarterback.
Look at there. Someone saying you should have wished Hitler a happy birthday. Like, you think Derek Carr like absolutely like murdered puppies like on the like live TV, but now Saints fans are staring down the gun barrel of what do they even do this year if he's not playing? So
they don't. Someone just said no, like you're not allowed. He's not playing right now. He's injured, and he hasn't been good for us. He hasn't been that bad, actually. But he hasn't.
He
been
was
that
actually
good.
good last year.
I thought pretty
in
good
terms,
myself, but okay. He's been injured more than bad,
well, I
and
told you
that's why you're mad.
They were ninth in offensive play yards per play, ninth with Derek Carr on the field last year compared to 31st without him. And if I remove the first 2 weeks, because everyone always talks about the first 2 weeks, the Saints, lit everyone on fire and they roasted the Cowboys and the Panthers. Even if I remove those 2 weeks, they averaged 5.5 yards per play those weeks, which would have been 13th on the season. So it's still a difference between top third in the NFL or top half versus being the actual last in the NFL. They were 0-7 without him.
Are posting. Look what they're posting. This one guy posted a picture of 3 different injuries that Derek Carr has suffered. Derek Carr is a 34-year-old man who is undersized even for his position. He's out there trying his best to score touchdowns and to please the fans, putting his health at risk, suffering the consequences, and they won't even let a happy birthday,
not even a happy birthday,
be uttered without the
like
reminder that, this guy's injury prone. This guy betrayed us by getting injured, by putting it all out there and then getting
Derek
injured.
Carr didn't give himself that contract.
Derek Carr. Look at all these injuries. Fuck him.
But Derek Carr didn't give himself that contract. Don't be mad at Derek Carr.
What are they mad at?
This is all Mickey Loomis. Mickey Loomis literally has kicked the can since Drew Brees left that franchise. Has just kicked the can on rebuilding that team.
He was pretty good, dude. He was better than I thought he would be in New Orleans with those weapons.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna get what they wish for. But even now, will he even do it? Again, if the Saints somehow traded up for pick 2, would you be surprised? Because he doesn't care. Mickey Loomis doesn't care.
Not in this class, man. They have to trade down. They have to trade down. Their pick is the line that's been set for the Ashton Genty draft selection. That's right where the Saints pick. That is the signal that you have to trade down. They have to start compiling future picks.
Line. Because if you look at after they pick, you go all the way to the Steelers at 21, where none of those teams are taking a quarterback. So it has to be a trade up if it's for Shedeur or Dart. It has to be a trade up, or you're just hoping that someone gets through to the Steelers because 10 through 20 ain't taking a quarterback.
No. Could be one of the great rebuilds if they really wanted to do it right. It could be a really special rebuild. They're so teed up.
They've never tried to rebuild since Brees left, and they need the scorch earth.
You're right. So it is.
He's never traded back. He needs to trade pick 9, and he's never traded he's never traded back in the first round.
Look at this. You're so right. Who's drafting a quarterback? No. Bears, 49ers, Cowboys, Dolphins, Colts, Falcons, Cardinals, Bengals, Seahawks, Buccaneers, Broncos. Broncos are picking at pick 20. Seattle's at 18.
Yeah, but they probably won't because they're going to probably just kick the can of Darnold for a year.
Well, they can get out of his clearly contract. Convinced that Darnold is good. They're wrongly convinced about that.
Well, to be fair to the Seahawks, both contracts they gave out that we probably wouldn't have given out to Cooper Kupp and Sam Darnold, they built outs where they can get out of those after 1 year. So
Correct.
They're at least aware. It's not like Mickey Loomis has literally look at Derek Carr's contract, who restructured his contract this offseason. They funneled him. He has a $69 million cap hit next year at 60 dead. Mickey Loomis has only kicked the can on contracts. Look, he just restructures contracts every year. Every year the Saints have been when the season rolls over, the Saints are somehow $20 million over the cap every March.
It's ridiculous. All right. Let's refocus on this draft class. Caleb Williams is actually pretty polarizing. Some people love him. I've seen him drafted ahead of Henderson on Fast Draft. Others are out on him, right? They think he's a plotter. Now he's meeting with the Bears. This makes sense to me. I think Caleb Williams to the Bears, those 2 picks in the second round, is one of the easier bets on the board. But how do you feel about Caleb Williams? Caleb
Johnson.
Why do I keep saying Caleb? I wrote down Caleb Williams on the show sheet for some reason, and I've been doing this from show after show.
Well, the Bears have Caleb because the Bears probably have Caleb
because it's the Bears. So my brain does something very weird with Caleb and the Bears, and so when I have Bears and Caleb in the same sentence, then it goes over to Caleb Johnson. Okay, yeah. So let's talk about Caleb Johnson. All right, enough of these Saints talk. You guys talked more about Derek Carr than you did rookies. Really? Yeah, we kind of did, didn't we? But that's fine.
Well, listen.
Caleb Johnson.
Shout out Invisalign.
Caleb Johnson is polarizing. Is he a plotter? Is he a dynamic all-purpose back? You decide, right? He's sort of the type of player that you like. He can be fit into. Hey, I love workhorse running backs. Okay, Caleb Williams is that. I like guys that are tackle breakers. Caleb Johnson is that. So there's just it's hard to find a polarizing player among these running backs other than Cam Skattebo, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So this is the one guy where it's like, yeah, you could. There's certainly analysts that see him more of as a plotter and a 2-down guy, and others that see him as an all-purpose guy. Where are you at with Caleb Johnson?
Well, he can be explosive. I mean, his kind of 40 time is what you see when you watch him. He is slow to ramp up in that 10-yard split range, but when he does get the top speed, he's an absolute force. And then he's a 224-pound bowling ball. That's how he got those explosive runs at Iowa. He is kind of one of these guys that's tough to diagnose. I think he is his landing spot to me. I do want to see where he goes before I kind of figure out what I want to do with him, because he is one of these guys that, as big as he is, he doesn't play a big man's game. He wants to get outside. He wants to take things outside. He wants to take on DBs and create explosive runs. He's not necessarily like what you would think, like your hammer, your 225-pound hammer. That's not his style of run, even for being an Iowa running back either, who was just forced to just face heavy boxes because that's how Iowa still refuses to join this century of football. And trying the forward pass is still absent in Iowa football. And that still was true last year. He faced 7.1 box defenders per run. That was the second highest rate in this class. Everyone knew he was getting the football. And that did create a little bit of some bad habits for him. Like I said, he wants to run outside. He wants to get outside. So if he lands in an outside zone scheme, though, because as a zone-based runner, those are strengths. You want to get him on the edge and create holes for him to get that ramp-up speed and then take off. That's Ben Johnson's offense. Like that, he's a zone-based team. They signed Drew Dahlman, who is one of the best zone blockers. You're going to get a lot of Drew Dahlman pulling in that he's pulling out. Joe Tooney and Jonah Jackson, they'll be moving. These guys are moving. They'll be pulling. They're going to be pulling. You're going to see a lot of that. That's what this offense is going to do under Ben Johnson. So he is an absolute fit there. So if he lands
and
there,
he's a huge departure from DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, I mean, well, the last time Ben Johnson had DeAndre Swift, he had his fewest rushing attempts per game of his career. He knows what he has in DeAndre Swift. So does he try to roll him over? Is he excited to have DeAndre Swift? When they traded away DeAndre Swift the year after that, too, his first year as a play caller, how much say did Ben Johnson have in that? I don't know. TBD. We're probably going to get a good feel for that. But we know he wants to play multiple backs anyway. That's why I said they could draft 2 backs. The Bears drafting 2 backs, the number of draft picks they have, wouldn't shock me, because what if he outright just isn't a fan of DeAndre Swift? We don't really know. That it could exist. But so I want to see him land in a team that is a zone-based team, wants to run outside zone. If a team's drafting Caleb Johnson for the emphasis to have him be just a 2-down guy that's going to be a hammer back, that's not him. That's not him game. You're going to be miscast. And if
that's
we talk
the
about
thing, that's what I'm saying. It's really the eye of the beholder with him.
Yeah, he's going to be miscast. And some of the receivers are like that too. That's why I keep going back to where this draft is such a North Star for how these teams view these players. And he is that kind of polarizing guy. Because I could totally see him land into a spot where it's like, that's not the right fit. He's going to be miscast, and he's probably going to be an inefficient runner in that scheme. So Bears would be the dream, obviously, for a lot of these guys. Let's just say Bears in general are the pipe dream for all the guys we talked about. If they don't take Caleb Johnson, then you want them to take Damian Martinez. You want them to take DJ Giddens. You want them to take RJ Harvey. Like that's where you want those guys to land. But are they going to land there? We're going to wait and see.
Caleb Johnson, he's going at the 108 on Fast Draft in the Origins all-rookie game. The thing is, though, he very rarely gets drafted in the Flex 4 game. So I think that's what's kind of fascinating. If we go to the ADPs on Fast Draft, yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. He would go just after Judkins, before Egbuka, because he's likely going to be drafted in the second round, and he has the nuts landing spot teed up, those 2 picks early in the second round for the Bears. But if you go to the Flex 4 game, what's interesting is that round 6. That round 6 is very interesting because it's begging for rookie running backs to get picked. I mean, look where Pacheco is going now. Mm-hmm. Finally, Pacheco is going after Hampton. It's about time. But is Hampton going even high enough at 44? Seems a little late for Hampton, actually. But if you keep going down, Judkins at 56, Henderson at 58, Henderson adjacent with Najee Harris. Who are you drafting right now in seasonal leagues? Best ball. Who would you rather have, Henderson or Najee Harris?
Henderson.
Thank you. Okay. And you keep scrolling, Caleb Johnson, his ownership is 26.2%. So he's only being drafted in 1 out of 4 drafts on Flex 4. Look at Henderson, 50%. Judkins, 58%. So there, if you think that Caleb Johnson's in that same tier, that same echelon of player, then he would be the perfect 6th-round pick in the Flex 4 game, because then you're getting that additional ownership leverage on the field. And you can get him at a place where's his ADP going to be after the draft? Right? So this is one of those opportunities where you have an opportunity to get him at the end of the 6th round now. But if he does go to the Bears, he's going to be a 4th or 5th round pick.
Yeah, well, the Bears are definitely going to carry that stigma again this year because of the Ben Johnson factor, right? Like Ben Johnson, everyone's been so excited for him to get a head coaching job that, we're going to find out, how much was actually him versus talent, that Detroit was able to accrue. So, what he did with Jared Goff is obviously going to be exciting for people. I mean, look at Caleb Williams, the actual Caleb Williams, not Caleb Johnson, has basically the same ADP right now if you're drafting that he had a year ago. Like, people are just giving him a hall pass and saying because of the Ben Johnson factor, right? Like,
I think it makes perfect sense. You have another year of development and rapport with Rome Odunze. I think it makes sense. Get an offensive coordinator upgrade.
The problem with the Caleb Williams from a fantasy stance, though, is just like he's not a consistent runner, and that was always the bugaboo versus him versus Jaden Daniels. As Jaden Daniels is this archetype of quarterback that could break fantasy football, and Caleb still needs some of that coaxing for a fantasy football stance. And unfortunately, this rookie class, for quarterbacks, doesn't have any guys. So I mean, they're just going to get thrown into like the deep pool of like QB2 guys.
Jalen Milroe.
Milroe, but Milroe's the
can't forget Milroe, the next Taysom Hill.
But Milroe's the classic trap dude. Like,
why is Milroe a trap?
Because we talked about this 2 years ago. I came on this show after Justin Fields' breakout and said that you should trade Justin Fields in Dynasty. Like his passing has been proven that he's not going to get a second contract with the team. A team isn't going to believe in him. Now he's on his 3rd team, and you were seeing it with Anthony Richardson immediately. Dude, Anthony Richardson is in a goddamn quarterback competition with Daniel Jones.
Think about that.
Because he can't throw.
This is a true fact.
No matter what, I am the Swami of Konami. I love these guys that can run.
You invented the Konami code.
But here's the thing. In the NFL, eventually to play quarterback in the NFL, you have to throw the football. You have to pass. You have to be able to throw the football to win as a quarterback. And if you can't win, you're going to get weeded out.
That's right.
You're and Jalen Milroe can't throw the football. He's a 20th percentile collegiate passer entering the NFL. Like the odds that he just magically turns into a good NFL passer are so damn thin. They're just so thin.
It's not going to happen.
It's just not going to happen. Now for fantasy football, anytime Jalen Milroe is starting, he's going to be a DFS play. He's going to be like, you're going to be doing that.
He's an interesting guy. Right, he's an interesting guy for rookie drafts, especially like a format like fast draft where you're not drafting the guy for their career, just for this year. Milroe, that's probably the best format for a guy like Milroe, is just drafting for this year.
And more so ever in today's current defensive meta, where they're not playing man coverage, they're dropping back and playing coverage. So like you have to win as a drop back passer in the quick game, and this archetype of quarterback, man, like. You're able to do it. See, and that's what made Jaden Daniels so appealing last year coming out, is that he had that passing profile paired with that upside. So it's just like, man, like, but you can't with Jalen Milroe, man. I get it. If you're in a Superflex league and you're saying, I just hope that I catch like a window or I can sell and upgrade, like I get it, but like you can't take these guys.
Milroe is going at pick 28 for this year. If you're just looking at total fantasy points for this year for rookies, Milroe is going after Giddens before Bond and Tootin.
Can't draft him, man. I don't think he's a draftable
player. You can't draft him.
I just don't think he's a draftable
player. You'd much rather have Damian Martinez there, right?
I will enjoy Jalen Milroe in DFS when I get to play him when he gets to start. But the odds that he gets a starting job or has a second contract as a starting job, I believe, are so minuscule that I don't even think he's draftable in Superflex leagues.
But even for this year, right? Just for this year, he could conceivably get a couple starts, maybe.
He would have to go to like the Browns, right? Like he would have to go to one of these teams that just have where it's just wide open.
I think at that particular ADP on Fast Draft, because Giddens and Martinez are available there, and they could easily be third-round picks, it's just you're going to get more total fantasy points from those running backs in that particular zone of the draft than you would a Jalen Milroe. But I get that there's some chasing of upside there for a mobile quarterback, and so as the originator of the Konami code, you do appreciate that, but it's not going to happen.
Right.
But it's
and same thing with Anthony Richardson. Like we harped on this because of what happened with what was transpiring before our eyes with Justin Fields in Chicago. And it was like, dude, the Colts are drafting this kid, and yes, the upside is there if everything comes together, but obviously it's a very long bet to make based on how, like, this is a Tim Tebow level passer. Like through 2 years in the NFL, the closest comps that Anthony Richardson has as an NFL passer through 2 seasons are Tim Tebow. Like
he's interesting though. It's
his head coach wants him to compete with Daniel Jones. His head coach is allowing him to compete with Daniel Jones.
He's a uniquely enigmatic quarterback where even though some of these rate statistics align with Tim Tebow, he's not Tim Tebow at all. He's very different than Tim Tebow. He actually has reasonable accuracy to the deeper quadrants of the field, which is something that Tebow couldn't ever even hit with a spiral.
The crazy part of Anthony Richardson, because you see this every Monday morning in the Monday morning quarterback clip watchers on Twitter and social media, is up until he actually throws the football, he looks the part. Like he actually processes and like navigates the pocket like a real quarterback. It's just the second that ball comes out of his hands, he has no idea where the hell it's going, man. It's like Uncle Rico. Like, I mean, he misses so many free squares. It's just crazy.
It's wild. And sometimes you'll see a guy flashing open and then he'll be throwing it to the guy deep instead of the guy that's right there. Like, so it's not just the inaccuracy. He does look the part going through the read progressions, but then he does make the wrong decision. Right? He misses the free squares in multiple ways. He doesn't recognize them, and then when he tries to hit them, it's inaccurate. So that guy cannot be a starter in the league for very long, which means it has to be Daniel Jones, which means if you had to pick a guy, remember we talked about it, who would be a target in all formats, You could argue, if not Garrett Wilson, then maybe Josh Downs.
Yeah, potentially. The problem with this, though, is that Daniel Jones is also as bad. That's the thing. When you look at the past 2 years, the only quarterback he's been better than is Anthony Richardson.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yes, and the wild part about this whole thing is Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones they're not interchangeable. They play different styles of football. Anthony Richardson wants to push the football down the field in big game hunt. Daniel Jones needs his handheld, and like the only bits of success he's had in the NFL are when you're handholding him in an offense and you're having to get rid of the football 5 yards down the field. So it's really weird. This whole dynamic is just a head scratcher because they're not even interchangeable. And I would bet you today, both guys make starts this year, right?
Oh, like, of course.
Like they're both going to make starts.
Yeah,
like,
they're both. One guy's going to start 8 games, the other guy's going to start 7 games, and then they're going to have someone else will start a few of those games because they also get injured a lot. It's crazy. It's crazy. Anthony Richardson is the guy that's going all in on every hand, and then Daniel Jones is the guy that always folds on the river.
So here it is. Anthony Richardson, 12.2 air yards per pass attempt, highest rate since Tim Tebow in 2011. 23% of his throws, 20 or more yards downfield, highest rate since 2011. Tebow. Here's the rub, though. He also only completed 60% of his throws 10 yards or further in 10 yards and in, the lowest rate since CJ Beathard in 2017. From a clean pocket, he had a 16.8% inaccurate throw rate. The league average is 9%. So he's almost double the league average in an accurate throw rate from a clean pocket. Like, what prospect has like turned this around? Josh Allen is all we have, right? And like,
no, he wasn't this bad though.
And he wasn't this bad. And it's also like one guy, and you're solely giving one guy. Like, no, it's just one dude like was able to turn this around. Like, so if you're counting on to catch the next Josh Allen, like that's just like a fool's errand to kind of chase, man. It's low probability.
Look at these advanced accuracy stats
you look at Daniel
on Player
Jones.
Profiler. Look at this. Look at these rankings. He's outside the top 30 in every stat. It's hard to believe, man. It's really hard to believe. He does give you explosive plays. He's top 10 in explosive plays, per drop back. And then he's outside the top 30 or 40 in every other efficiency metric.
But he looks really cool doing it.
It's really crazy. He's a crazy player.
It is absolutely wild, man.
It's crazy that he exists. It's fun that he exists. It's just you can't put any value on him in Dynasty. You have to.
And what's crazy about from a Dynasty perspective, yeah, he took the biggest fall in my Dynasty rankings from last year. This year easily. And the bummer is they have talented receivers that we want to be excited about for fantasy. We want to be excited about Josh Downs. Dude, there's a season last year, and I think Ian Hartitz may have tweeted this out. Like, there's a season where like Adonai Mitchell has like 800 receiving yards last year on the Colts. Like, it's just like there were throws that weren't even in his zip code. Like, he was getting open. Dude, Adonai Mitchell was number 8 in terms of ESPN's like open score as a wide receiver. Like, he was getting wide open. I think Ian Hartitz did tweet out a video of like Adonai Mitchell misses like bad throws to him. So if you want to find it, I believe it was Hartitz.
Well, here's the thing. There's one thing that I know. It's that Alec Pierce is not going to be in that role. That role is going to Adonai Mitchell.
And he's a free agent. Like this is the last year on Alec Pierce's contract. Like he's probably.
But even this year, Alec Pierce isn't going to finish the year as a top 3 option in that depth chart. Not gonna. But happen.
even if you like Josh Downs, you can't get excited about Daniel Jones potentially starting, because are you excited for Daniel Jones? Are you excited to get Wan'Dale Robinson again? We just saw Wan'Dale Robinson have the fewest receiving yards and the highest amount of targets we've had. Like, are you excited for that to happen to Josh Downs either? I'm not.
So we have, I think we have it. I'm trying to show this.
Yeah, we're just looking up tweets on this podcast now. But it's like, look at that.
No,
dude.
This is great.
He's 15 yards open on that play. Like, what the hell?
There it
Like,
is.
absolutely incredible, man. Like, absolutely incredible shit, man. Like, just him, just this, like, there's a world where he had like 700, 800 receiving yards on his small sample and just absolutely couldn't get 31% inaccurate throw rate when Anthony Richardson was in the game. The only player that had a higher rate of inaccurate targets than Adonai Mitchell was, can you guess it? You're going to be mad.
The wide receiver in the NFL with a lower rate of inaccurate targets than Adonai Mitchell would be. Am I going to get it?
You're going to be real mad. That had as many targets as Mitchell too. Like he actually had more targets than him.
Calvin Austin.
Rome Odunze.
Oh no! It's only going to get better for Rome Odunze, though.
Yeah, so let's get Harnitz to make the Rome Odunze tweet too, the clip. But
well, the thing is, you can't trade for Rome Odunze in Dynasty. That's the thing. You can say, oh, he's a trade target, but he's going for full freight. There's no discount on him.
No,
right?
no,
everyone's just rolling it over. Same thing. Like the valuation hasn't changed.
Rome Odunze on the Bears. Where would he be in this rookie draft for you? Where would you rank him? Not the prospect, because Rome Odunze, the prospect, is better than every receiver in this class.
I was going to say Rome Odunze as a prospect would be the
no,
but
he's already on the Bears. But you already, so like basically, like what would you trade Rome Odunze for in terms of a pick in this class? Basically, is what I'm saying. Clearly the 101, but are you doing 102?
Yeah, this is my problem with this class.
Because if Rome Odunze was in this class,
it's not that clear, and I think we actually have the lifetime value ratings in the Dynasty package on Player Profiler. We have this we have the pick. You can say, show me where the picks are. So include rookie picks. So we can say, show me the valuation. Show me include rookie picks. When I scroll down to the 102, yes, I'd rather have Rome Odunze than the 102.
And I think you can make that trade right now if you have 102. The gamer that has Rome Odunze will, in a heartbeat, trade you him for the 102. I think 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. I mean, it's very close. I mean, it's within like 10 lifetime value points. It's very close.
I mean, I also believe that if you offered the 103 for Rome Odunze, that gamer is also going to take that probably 9 times out of 10.
Well, yeah, we have it where it's like 102, Odunze, 103. It's like he's the guy. If you had to pick a guy that was bracketing like the 102 and the 103, it's Rome Odunze. That's wild. It's Rome Odunze. It's guys like T. Higgins. Yeah.
I will say I am, not to make this all Bears podcast, which we're turning into here, is that, I do believe if you look at what Ben Johnson was able to turn Jameson Williams into the back half of the year, like that's what you're looking for paired with the subtraction of Keenan Allen from that offense, is that Ben Johnson's going to get Rome Odunze a higher quality of target. Even if Caleb Williams does not become a more accurate quarterback, he's just going to get targets in a different sector of the field than where he was forced to work as a rookie because of where the Bears offense was. And they were asking him to win as a rookie. So that's what you have going for you. But again, we're pricing a lot of Ben Johnson into these Bears guys. We for sure are.
Well, this is the issue, right? This is when we've talked about this many times. When offensive coordinator is the reason. When offensive coordinator is the leading edge of the analysis, it is almost always wrong.
Yes.
Almost always wrong. And
we've all died on this hill.
If you want to talk about the Bears, you want to talk about Caleb Williams taking a leap forward and all these things, I'm fine with it. I think as long as you're talking about improvements along the offensive line, as long as you're talking about just variance on pass attempt accuracy to Rome Odunze and his ability to make plays in contested situations, these are things that are going to improve. No question. But it's not about Ben fucking Johnson, man. You know we're not going to be talking about Ben Johnson next year at this time. You know no one's going to talk about it. It's not going to be a topic of conversation. No one's going to care about him. There's going to be another guy that everyone's talking about. He just happens to have, this is his moment. This is offensive coordinators down. Mike McDaniel's going to be fired. You understand that?
He is probably going to be fired.
Do you understand this? I mean, and he was the guy 2 years ago that it's always a different guy the next year. And that guy is always a degraded guy the next year. And then he's another year away from being out of a job.
You were the chosen one. Yeah, it's the meme. Oh, yeah. There's all these guys. There's always be an X-Men Johnson, too. There always will be.
I mean, but the thing is, he's Ben Johnson. Like, he's not interesting. He just happened Ben to Johnson be isn't scoring you the coordinator for the Lions that built the perfect franchise of the last 5 years. I mean, why am I've yet to, no one's been able to help me understand why I'm excited about this guy. Of course, you're going to get the most out of Jared Goff if he has the most time to throw of any quarterback in the league.
All right. Okay.
We started talking about this.
No one knows. No one knows. I don't even know where
we're projecting Caleb Johnson to go to the Bears. That's how
somehow
this all started.
Turned into an Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones riff into an actual Caleb Williams take.
That's how it all played out. And so that was one question on the show sheet. The question after that in the show sheet was, I like DJ Giddens and I like RJ Harvey. And the reason the league is less impressed with these guys, is it pass pro? What is it?
Yeah, it's 100% their pass game involvement. It's what separates these guys. It's what it separates, particularly Harvey, who on paper you could say could be arbitrage on Travion Henderson.
Yeah,
because they're similar guys. 200, 205, runs 4.4, creates explosive runs. Give them the tarmac. But it's the difference is, we know that Travion Henderson, as a passing game player, changes the fabric of your offense as a player, getting the football in space in the passing game and then in pass protection. Like, he's a gnarly pass protector, and that's RJ Harvey's largest shortcoming. Unfortunately, I mean, he is one of the worst backs in pass protection. He actually allowed the second to last pass pro pressure rate of any running back, and that was at UCF, like not against NFL dudes. Pro Football Focus gave him the worst pass blocking grade of any running back in this class. So does he, we saw this, like this happens with a few guys, CH being one of the examples I brought up to you before the show. Like, CH was a garbage pass protector at LSU, and it limited him being a pass game player in the NFL, especially even early on when he went to the Chiefs, when everyone was, to the moon on him, and he was roadblocked by Darrell Williams, on playing third downs and passing situations. So that's the big shortcoming. But again, you only need one team to believe in RJ Harvey. That's where you're asking me for the fault. And then Giddens, I think,
but even with RJ Harvey, he's best comparable to Chase Brown. Chase Brown was a year away. Chase Brown improved as a pass protector, but in year one, he really wasn't able to be used. That's the danger with RJ Harvey.
Yeah. And then it took necessity to get Chase Brown on the field because Zach Moss was still blocking him on those down distances last year. Zach Moss was still, for the Bengals, was roadblocking Chase Brown from having that run out and getting that look. So here's the problem if you have that player that gets roadblocked in the way that Chase Brown plays. He's an exciting per opportunity touch player, but he doesn't have access to the money downs from a fantasy football stance. He's not getting you catches and he's not scoring touchdowns. And that's the worry with RJ Harvey, right? As he ends up getting into one of those situations. Giddens could still be like an early down banger and still having access to touchdowns. The problem with him is I actually think he could be the worst receiving back in the class. He has the highest drop rate over his career in this class. He also is 29th in pressure rate allowed. And the other thing too is for Giddens being an early down player is he's inconsistent. He lived on those explosive runs, which I don't have a problem with. But then you brought up the Tevin Coleman factor, and that was always a problem with Tevin Coleman, like getting out of his team fully giving Tevin Coleman a lot of touches, was that he was so cattywampus as a producer. He'd give you the 40-yard run, the 20-yard run, and then he'd give you 5 straight runs of losing a yard because he tried to turn it into that 20-yard run. And that's how Giddens is as a prospect too. But again, That's why I said the draft is just such a big North Star for these guys. Where do they land? What is the team telling us they believe about this player? It's gonna be really relevant with these guys. I include I like Damian Martinez. Damian Martinez is totally in that boat.
I mean, there's not actually as many all-purpose backs in this class as I had hoped.
Also, Scatabo, that's his one thing, is because teams are going to like Scatabo, but he is atrocious in pass protection, like absolutely a garbage.
Well, he doesn't want to be a pass protector. He thinks he's too good for pass pro. You know, he's a big asshole, right?
I mean, I don't know anything about him as a person, but
apparently he is like the first running back to come out of college in decades that just has a total diva attitude. Isn't that weird?
It would seem odd for a guy that probably, you're banking on a team believing in taking a leap of faith with you anyways, based on your profile.
How could you be at best a day 2 running back running a 4.7 with a diva attitude? It's crazy. They're like, oh yeah, I met this Scatabo guy. Dickhead. Like, really? The thing is, you meet so many of these guys, these prospects and NFL players, they're so gracious. All at the Senior Bowl, you get to interview so many of these guys, and they're just almost all of them to a man, super cool. I mean, there's a little bit of shyness there, right? But there's very few. These guys are full. They've had, media exposure for years. They're just not standoffish. I mean, some of these guys are fully affable, like Luke Musgrave, right? These it is like life of the party type of guys. But I mean, it's like, what? I did a double take. I was like, really? That's just very interesting. And now again, you tell me that he has no interest in pass protection. That tracks.
Yeah, but it only takes one team to ignore that too, though. So that's why I said, like, again, I keep going back to the North Star. This draft class, this NFL draft is going to be more of a North Star for rookie equity, I think, than any class I've ever covered.
I have been mystified by the Cam Scatabo draft selections on Fast Draft. In particular, of course, it's the rookie game. He doesn't get drafted in the Flex 4 game. But he goes very high in a number of these drafts, and it's befuddling to me because he is so landing spot dependent. If there was a guy where I would be like, okay, I'm not going to draft much Scatabo pre-draft, I'm going to see how it plays out, and then I might be in on him post-draft, he would be the guy to have that approach with. And yet, no, there are people that are like, don't care, I'm going in on Scatabo in the early second round. Within a 10-team draft. It's like, what are we doing here? By the way, promo code is Podfather. Promo code Podfather, $50 deposit match on Fast Draft. Like, what? Also, it takes time for wide receivers to get up and running, so that's the argument. Oh, well, this guy's ready to produce right away. Well, we'll see with Scatabo. Can he even get out of his own way? That is the question.
Well, the problem is he has a good receiving profile, but like the CEH corollary, right? Like the problem with CEH had that too, and it was an actual asset if you wanted to use him as a guy that's going to go out. But the fact that he was so unwilling and such a bad pass protector, it hindered him to get access to those. Like, again, Chase Brown being the most recent guy too.
But a guy like Chase Brown, he had to be humbled, and then he built himself up into something. This Scatabo seems like he's far away from being humbled, but
I think that's why a team has such a gap. You brought up the Travion Henderson thing versus RJ Harvey, who they could look like, but I think that's why you see such a big gap between RJ Harvey and Dylan Sampson. Like, from the NFL stance, like why Dylan Sampson's valued so much higher than RJ Harvey, because that'd be the one you could have a conversation about more and say, like, these guys should be closer. But the NFL, I think, is literally they're pricing some of this in with Harvey and saying, like, this dude is, and he's in this kind of like, I call them like CUVs, like remember SUVs like became a thing, and it's like now SUVs like got like pint size. It's like they're now in between a car and an SUV. That's kind of what you have with RJ Harvey. So like he's not quite a a speedster guy because he's not going to get access to like the Jahmyr Gibbs stuff, and then he also might not be big enough to get access to the touchdown stuff. So like he could just be a limbo back.
I mean, Samson's a total slasher.
Yeah.
I mean, Samson was putting up, big runs. He's interesting. And if he can pass, you can see if one guy succeeds in pass protection, the other guy doesn't. The other guy has what all the coaches are looking for. The other guy, not so much. That could make the difference of 2 rounds of capital. That could be 2nd round for Samson, 4th round for Harvey. And that explains it.
But you only need one team, like I said, to believe counter. So that's, again, it takes one.
So
I'll let you. You were going to talk about Ted McMillan, though.
Well, with Ted McMillan, he goes before a lot of the upper echelon running backs on Fast Draft in the rookie game, and that I like him. The thing is, it's like I don't agree with that, but I do like him. Like I do think he is a premium player. I think that he's always being, he's the 2nd best player in this class. It's clearly Travis Hunter, and then it's Ted McMillan. I'm like, well, why? Like, is it just because it's the thing you can't have? You can't have Travis Hunter, so you put him number 1 just because it's the the shining, glittering object that's just out of reach.
Well,
and
I am someone that has
is just taken for granted as a guy you can always draft, and he's going to play wide receiver, and that's fine because his numbers are incredible. I love Ted McMillan, but I wouldn't draft him in a tournament for this year over a guy like Travion Henderson. I'm not doing that.
No. And even someone that has Travis Hunter 1 as wide receiver 1, I still would value the running backs in rookie drafts over him even. So, I mean, just because I'm from an older school, and you saw it last year, here's the thing, and I talked about this a little bit with why I believe that this draft class to be some kind of could kind of cannibalize itself, is that, again, RB2, baseline RB2 production is the lowest amount of leverage you'll gain in fantasy football from a starting spot if you have that type of player. But the number 1 spot is if you're having RB1s. Even in this, through this Great Depression of RB1s, having an elite fantasy running back from a seasonal level wins you leagues. So that's why I still value the Travion Hendersons over those guys. Like I think 1 RB1 season from Travion Henderson is worth more than 6 RB wide receiver 2 seasons from Ted McMillan.
Well said. Well said. Did you notice the ad that was up on Player Profiler was for the new Epic Universal Studios park?
Oh, nice. Yeah.
When are you going to be going, man? We love Universal Studios.
I'm big Universal.
And I know you love Universal Studios.
I'm big Universal Studios honk. My kids prefer it to Disney as well, so it's winning. One victory as a parent I've had is getting to go to Universal over Disney trips. But I'm excited for that new land as well. That new park.
New land is like twice the size of the old. I can't believe I don't know how they buy all that land. And we're not sponsored by Universal Studios. I wish we were. How great would that be? We could go to Universal Studios for free.
I work for NBC.
I'm an influencer for Universal Studios. Oh my God.
Yeah.
If there's a take from this show that it resonates, it's got to be that Universal Studios dominates Disney. Absolutely dominates. And it's a sucker move to go to Disney. Disney's a total sucker move in Florida. If you're going to Orlando, stay at Universal, go to Universal. I mean, we have nights where, you could do something else. You don't have to go to the park necessarily. Usually you're going to the park.
City Walk rules, man.
City Walk, you could just walk around. Or there were some occasions where, we would go to the water park during the day and then after dinner, go jump on just a couple coasters at night. And we did the Hagrid's motorbike at night. You got to do Hagrid's motorbike at night. I know it's great. Overall, it's one of the greatest rides. But Hagrid's motorbike at night, absolutely incredible. And because you stay so close to the park, you can just walk over, walk back. It's really a low hassle, super fun experience. I'm a huge fan.
I love it. I'm not even a Harry Potter honk. It's not really my bag. I know it's some people Star Wars, and I don't dislike it either. So my wife loves Harry Potter Land. Likes Harry Potter, but when you go to that Diagon Alley, Dude, the second when I walk back there, like, and you're walking off like it's hidden, like it's supposed to be London, like it is in the show, dude, I was like, what is this? This is amazing. Like, this is amazing shit. Like, this is great. So not even as like a super fan of that stuff, I was like in awe and like just the aspect of it. So
I'm bringing it up because there's so many people that have kids that are like in middle school that would absolutely love this thing. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, Universal. And they're like, oh, you've been to Universal? Haven't been there. Haven't been there. Haven't been there. Haven't been there. Like, okay, well, fix that. Okay,
fix it.
That's the place to go. So
they're turning it into Disney where you need to spend a week there now. It used to be you could do Universal in a day. Then it's not. Then it's like they added the second park and you have to spread it out. And then like now they added a third park and it's like you need like a whole week there now.
Oh, this Epic Park is something else. But I understand it's a big investment. Okay, it's a big investment. It's like a once a year we're gonna save up. We're gonna do this. And that's families that can afford it or make that investment. It's a big deal. It's a big deal, and
especially
you're just
these
going
times.
to get more for your buck. It's going to be better if you spend that money, if you take that investment and put it into Universal, not Disney. Fade Disney, and we're very bullish on Universal.
We are bullish. Love it.
Now, after Igbuka with these wide receivers, I like Jalen Noel. I like Higgins. I like A.O. Manor. I wouldn't draft them. I'm still drafting the running backs in the second round of rookie
But you're going to have
drafts.
to, because I'm finding this out. I told you I'm already in live fire rookie drafts. And here's the thing is you're starting to find out it's an arms race for the running backs. So now you're starting to catch guys that you believe will be values in like, listen, there's guys I don't like in this wide receiver class that I don't think are particularly good bets, but you're able to now get these guys at price points that are palatable to bite on perceived draft capital. I don't particularly like Luther Burden. I definitely don't like Matthew Golden, but you're telling me that you can get Matthew Golden right around pick 20 in a rookie draft. Like
No, you got to do that.
Like you almost have to do it. Like
you have to do it.
Like I told you, I just got Igbuka at 10. I wasn't super excited about it, but because there's an arms race for running backs, now it's started to say, like, we aren't excited about these wide receivers, but there's now an inflection point where the receivers now are looking like they could be potential values.
Oh, yeah. Oh, easily. I mean, there was a case to be made, for every wide receiver, especially those that get drafted in the first round. There is a price where they should be drafted, right? There is a price. So I'm going back through time. All these players that were drafted. If we keep going back, we go back to 2020. Go back to 2021. First round, pick 20. 2021. This was the last time a first-round wide receiver fell this far in rookie drafts. And I hated his profile. I thought he was a gadget player that had no business going in the first round. It was a terrible pick by Dave Gettleman. Kadarius Toney. But at some point, you have to be the one that steps in and says, this guy runs a 4.3 and he's a first-round pick. I'm going to draft him. At some point, Kadarius Toney becomes a guy that you can draft in rookie drafts. That's the last time this happened. And now we're seeing it with Matthew Golden because he's going to be drafted around what? Around pick 20?
Yes. I mean, we're through the first round in the league I'm in, and it's a super flex league, granted, but like he has not been picked yet. He has not been picked yet. We're expecting him to be picked in the first round. He's probably going to go be drafted higher than Igbuka and Burden.
Oh, no, he's going to go higher in the draft, but he will be selected after them in rookie drafts because all of our models, including ours with the Breakout Finder, available in the App Store.
We've been burned by
breakout ratings.
The non-productive, speedy first-round wide receiver has stolen many souls in fantasy football over the years.
Some of them you can see coming, though. Like Kadarius Toney was easy to see coming because he was a converted running back and he wasn't that productive. It was Dave Gettleman. It was so easy. It was so easy. Henry Ruggs, He was an Alabama receiver. He got drafted before CeeDee Lamb. There was a little more enthusiasm around Henry Ruggs.
Who is
and if you
player
go back through
profilers,
time, there's been a number of these guys, Tavon Austin, that they do get steamed up in rookie drafts.
Who is player profiler's closest golden comp? Curious. Because there's no draft capital in those, right?
It's a little it's a little bit bullish on this. It's a little we'll say glass half full on this comp. Santana Moss.
Okay, because there's no draft capital into the comps, right?
There is projected draft capital, yes.
Okay,
and then we correct. Sometimes these comps change if the guy doesn't get drafted, falls to the 4th round, whatever it is. We expected first round draft capital. So yeah, that was, if he was going to be a day 3 pick, he wouldn't be comparable to Santana Moss. But you take a guy that runs a 4.3 flat and wasn't super productive in college and went to one of these programs that was getting all the talent, sucking in all the talent. There are a lot of parallels there with Santana Moss.
Yeah, I mean, when we have the Texas wide receiver stuff from these last 2 years where they look like they're actual players, and like the year 1 Worthy and Adonai Mitchell, I think, proved that they could play. And it's just like, was this a Quinn Ewers connection problem? Was there more to it? We don't know for the production, but that's been a tighter needle to thread. But now when you remove, because when you tell me in a typical draft class, I have to take Matthew Golden at pick 106, 107, it's a lot different than when you tell me I have to take him at pick 205. Right? And that's where we are. And that's the landscape we're in now with this class, because so gamers right now are so much just hammering running backs. So I can tongue in cheek say I'm only going to draft running backs this year or rookie drafts. But now if everyone else in my leagues is thinking the same thing, eventually you're looking now saying, are these receivers of value? Do I start taking these wide receivers? And that's when I've noticed this happening in these early drafts.
Well, Knoll and Higgins can easily fall to the 3rd round, especially in Superflex.
I like both the Iowa State guys a lot. I wish you could make them one receiver. If you could make them one receiver, they'd be the best receiver in this class. Like if Higgins had more Knoll and Knoll had more Higgins in their game, like that'd be a perfect wide receiver.
We always do, yeah. We love the Franken comps around the NFL draft, right? This guy is part this and part that. Right. So, yeah, like RJ Harvey is part Aaron Jones and part Chase Brown. Right. So we love to do that. And so, but Jalen Knowles, part Jalen Knoll and part, I wish, that would you just need like a particle acceleration chamber. These guys step in, they both step in on 2 sides. They close the door and the thing comes out. And then would that just be Tet McMillan?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, so the thing with Tet McMillan that we didn't really touch on is even he comes with a little bit of that North Star aspect, I believe, in this class, because I think that there's a chance that a team could misuse Tet McMillan. And we've seen this in recent years with Drake London and Marvin Harrison Jr., where he might be pushed to play too much X receiver. And the prototypical X receiver is kind of a dying breed in today's NFL. Like they aren't as good for fantasy football as they were a decade ago. Like we want our fantasy football wide receivers now to have full field access. We want them to have power slot access, even if they are a 6'4", 220-pound guy, because those are the guys that get free squares for fantasy football and then can turn that into like high upside, types of targets. Drake London being kind of the biggest point of that. Look what he was asked to do his first 2 years in the NFL and the Arthur Smith offense, and then what he was asked to do in the Zach Robinson offense. And that's the reason why he broke out for fantasy football. It wasn't just quarterback play. It was where he was getting targets on the field. McMillan has a little bit more of that Drake London to him, where he is good after the catch, and he's a good tackle breaker. He was excellent on the limited opportunities we saw him from the slot. But if a team is drafting him to play X receiver versus have this full field usage, we could run into those problems, because that happened to Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison Jr. got archetyped into just being kind of a guy that had to win on low leverage success rate targets in the NFL. And that era of fantasy football is past us now. we don't that type of player is not scoring all the fantasy points anymore. So we need a guy who can get those free squares. And there's the one thing where even Tet McMillan could go to be in a landing spot, like Dallas, especially because if he goes to Dallas, dude, CeeDee Lamb's he's got squatters rights on those targets. Like, so if he lands in Dallas at 12, I actually think that's a bad landing spot for him. Now he's getting a good.
Wait, does anyone think that's a good landing spot?
Well, yeah, you're getting, access to Dak, I think, and, a good offense, what will be a good offense, but yeah.
No, man. No. I have 10 burning questions for you. 10 burning questions. I know
but I do like the Iowa State guys, by the way.
We're deep into this. We'll touch on the Iowa. I have questions about don't worry. One of the 10 burning questions has to do with the Iowa State receivers. Come up after this. Hey, why do we partner with the FFPC? Because they have the widest variety of fantasy football formats, and it's the easiest place to find all types of fantasy football contests in the world. What if you want to play for high stakes? Well, they have a $6 million prize pool with their Fantasy Players Championship. They also have way too early best ball leagues that start in February and Dynasty leagues. They have the closest thing to a liquid market for orphans that there is in all of Dynasty. And the FFPC has sponsored us for half a decade because we are actually delivering information that can help fantasy gamers, and they're generating so much interest and bringing in so many new users, casual users even. The FFPC creates a unique experience where you can both compete against the best and make money. Use promo code UNDERWORLD to get $25 off your first team. $25 off your first team at the FFPC with promo code UNDERWORLD. Go get it! 10 burning questions. 10 burning questions. And our best comparable, by the way, for Tet McMillan is Drake London. And he has access to those targets that you want, where they can slide him into the slot and then bingo bongo.
And you're hoping that with a guy like Jaden Higgins, because we saw this with Brian Thomas Jr. coming out last year as a prospect, where it was just an unknown part of Brian Thomas's game, and some people were dinging him for it just because at LSU, Malik Neighbors had squatters' rights on those types of targets, and he was getting all of those in the LSU offense. But the second Brian Thomas got away from Malik Neighbors, he actually ran more routes in the slot last year than he did in college, than Malik Neighbors did last year as rookies. So he got access to that full field usage. We needed an injury to Christian Kirk to get there, but we saw that door unlocked. And again, that's when he went nuts at the end of the season, is when Brian Thomas Jr. kind of solidified himself where he was as a wide receiver one for fantasy. And that's what we have with Jaden Higgins. You're hoping that he was just roadblocked by Jalen Knoll in that regard, but the sample that we have of him getting to play in the slot is nowhere near as good as Jalen McMillan's. But that's what we're hoping for, is he gets access to those types of things.
So who do you have ranked higher between the two?
Higgins just for ceiling potential,
right?
But I think Knoll is a safer pick. I think Knoll enters the NFL at Knoll is Tyler Lockett. He is almost a carbon copy of Tyler Lockett to me.
He's almost as safe as Ibuka. He just doesn't. He's not going to get the draft capital.
No, he doesn't have the physical profile. I think that's what holds him back. But he is a good athlete. He's got the receiving production, and the reason I love the Lockett comp for me personally, it's a personal bias to it, is he has the return stuff that Lockett had. He wins vertically like Lockett did, because Lockett was a vertical slot player. He wasn't like this turn around 6-yard type of slot player. Lockett was a vertical slot player, and he's a vertical slot in the NFL. That's Knoll's game. But Knoll also so Lockett had this thing where his career lasted so long because he never got tackled. He just went down. If you ever see these clips of Lockett, he's running in the open field and he just goes down. That's Jalen Knoll. He's never broken a tackle. If you breathe on him, he's I'm out of here. I'm on the ground. And that's why I think the Lockett comp fits an extra degree for him.
But he's still, the thing is, though, he is really good at understanding angles on the football field. You have to be rolling up 2,000 special teams yards.
Yes.
So he is a very good football player. Tyler Lockett is a very good football player. You can be a good football player and not be a guy that runs to contact or a guy that takes a lot of huge hits. Okay, he doesn't take a lot of huge hits. Big deal.
Because you hear a lot of this stuff, especially now in the era where we have all the advanced metrics of this is how many tackles a guy broke and all these things. Jalen Knoll didn't break a lot of tackles almost just by play style. That's who he is. And I don't think it's necessarily a shortcoming. I just think that's why he is more Tyler Lockett-ish, right?
You know who did break a lot of tackles? Quentin Johnston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The chat's
So
the dude.
that's
The dude in
necessarily
the
like
chat
a
is
predictive
definitely
stat.
wrong. No, Jalen Noel had the worst tackle breaking metrics for any receiver in this class. I don't care about it. It's really, he had the lowest rate, 3.8% of his receptions. He had a forced missed tackle on XRP.
Oh God.
Lowest rate in this class. I don't think that matters to me because, like I said, like because he enters the NFL in an era where that archetype of player has more value than it was a decade ago. We talked about it with Gibbs, right? And potentially I was a little bit lower on Gibbs because I overthought his archetype of player, but he entered the NFL at a time where his archetype player had increased value. And that's what I believe Jalen Noel enters the NFL in. Egbuka is the same way, right? Like where you see Egbuka might be more of a floor player for a lot of people, or people see he's like more hitting like a double, right? Like it's why people take him. It's like he's hitting a double instead of a home run. But he also enters the NFL in an era where he wins has a lot more value to an offense than it did 10 years ago.
Early third rounds in Superflex. Get these Iowa State receivers, man. It's not bad.
And everyone's on Noel too, though. Like he's not a guy that I think slides through, especially like if you're in these drafts that are drafting now, you probably have to take him a little bit more than where his ADP will settle, just because you probably have another gamer in your league that also likes him. I feel like Noel is the guy that like everyone's kind of be like, whoa, we like this guy and we'll let you know we like this guy, but how much we like this guy, we're trying to keep under wraps a little bit. But
well, the reason why is he looks so much like a lot of these other receivers that produce. Like he is super athletic. He is like a rocked up 5'10", 190-pound receiver. Like he doesn't fall into that like ex-purgatory like Higgins. You could very easy to imagine.
And that's my worry with Higgins, even though
with some team
Higgins
producing. It's much more of a much more difficult exercise to imagine Higgins and what his role would be and how he would produce fantasy points on, Team X in the NFL. It's actually much easier to envision Noel producing.
Yes, correct. But if it all comes together and Higgins does get like access to the full field target tree, his ceiling is a lot higher. Is because he's a guy that could have a double-digit touchdown season in an unproductive season. Like he's like that, also that archetype of player. So when you're thinking about just like shooting from the hip, especially if he's going to be like a back second round, third round rookie pick, and you're thinking about that upside, that's how you can say like this has already been priced in. Like, what if this all does come together and does congeal? And
well, let's look at the let's look at the NFL draft. Let's look at the second round. I mean, Higgins is supposed to go early second round. Noel's supposed to go late second, early third. So what does that mean? Who's there? Who's picking? Right? We've got Jacksonville. We've got the Raiders at 37. We've got the Patriots at 38. What if the Patriots draft Higgins?
You love it.
I mean, isn't that like, that's the nuts? That's the nuts for Higgins. He's not going to go to the Bears. You don't want him going to New Orleans. That would be hell. You don't want him going to the Jets. You don't want him going to the 49ers, do you? You don't want him going to Dallas. So it actually gets quite dangerous. It's really nice for him in this, like, Titans isn't even bad for him. Right? Titans would be kind of nice for him. He would complement Ridley well. Titans, Raiders, Patriots, that's a nice little pocket for Higgins, and then it gets quite bad for a while. Quite a while.
But a lot of these spots are going to be nebulous too, especially for the wide receivers, just because like say like the Panthers, for example, we talked about Ted McMillan. If he goes there, right, like he's going to be blocked year one by that slot usage with Adam Thielen. But Adam Thielen's 35 years old. Like it's going to be pretty nebulous that he moves out. Guys like the Patriots, like like you're not worried about big picture Demario Douglas, right? Like stop if Demario Douglas is stopping you from getting access to that type of stuff, well, they're like you were never going to work anyway.
You don't care.
But a lot of that stuff is very fluid. I mean, shit. Look at the Texans situation this past year. Just look at how fluid their wide receiver room is based on the talent they've had, and it's just not getting guys healthy on the field. It's those things are a lot more nebulous. Brian Thomas Jr. being an example of in season it changing, right? Like
sometimes it doesn't have to be that complicated. I think these teams think a little bit simply. Remember the situation where AJ Brown went to Philadelphia and then the Titans did the most obvious thing, which is to take the first round wide receiver that looked the most like AJ Brown, and it was a total bust in Treylon Burks. There's just a lot of Treylon Burkses out there. That's why I tend to lean running back, all else equal, is players like Treylon Burks, players like N'Keal Harry. They're the reasons why I lean running back. On average, on any given round, I'm going to lean running back. But if you're telling me, end of the second, beginning of the third, a guy like Higgins is there, what if he gets drafted to Seattle? Seattle's got those 2 picks, pick 50 and 52, and they trade Metcalf, and with that pick from Pittsburgh, it just makes perfect sense that they would be thinking, well, we need to replace Metcalf, and here's the pick we got from Metcalf. Let's use it on the Metcalf from this draft.
It's going to be interesting what Seattle does in general because they've got 2 guys that have one in the slot to play in Clint Kubiak's offense who doesn't play 3 wide receiver sets at all. It's going to be interesting who they're asking to run those routes, that deep dig, right? Like that offense wants to run. Is it going to be Kupp? Is it going to be JSN? I believe it will be JSN, but it's nebulous too that Kupp could be on the team next year. Like I talked about, they gave him a 3-year contract, but they can get out of it after the season. And get cap savings back. That's why at wide receiver, I'm not like so locked in on initial landing spot just because it is so nebulous and these rosters turn over so quick at the wide receiver position, and then you're attached to quarterback play and all these other things. So I tend
the nice thing about him going to Seattle though is they don't have an X receiver and they have a pocket passer. So these are 2 big wins if for him going to Seattle.
But he's not going to play year 1 over either of those guys.
Well, no, but from a dynasty perspective,
yeah.
Most of these guys, you're not. Rome Odunze didn't produce, and his value barely changed. Right, his dynasty value is dropped only slightly. So I think this is one of those situations where you draft him knowing you're not going to get big time production this year from Higgins, but if Cooper Kupp is dust. We know that he's going to get some run. Also, Cooper Kupp is no lock to be healthy. He's going to be healthy in the month of September, but we could easily see a nice second half in Seattle from Higgins.
And we don't need him. We don't need that guy. Even Tet, bringing Tet back into it, into the fold with Higgins, with Trey Harris. These guys that could turn into a team could say like, we're going to have these guys play X early on. We don't need the full slot usage. You just need it to be like 20 to 30%. It's like all you really need access to kind of get into that range. You don't have to be a 50-50 player. You just need like that 20 to 30%.
With a guy like Higgins, you're not going to get big slot usage. You're just not. I think you're more likely to get it from Tet. Like
you should get it from Tet.
In a Drake London type role. I think that whoever drafts Higgins is going to be drafting him because they want an X receiver, and they probably have someone like JSN to man the slot already. This is why these are 2 different prospects. This is why the upside for Ted is higher.
Yes.
Yeah. Shedeur Sanders is all over the place. He's a big topic of conversation. We probably should talk about him for that reason. They're now saying that owners need to get involved if he's going to get drafted in the first round. This is actually something that I was worried about with him, that, coaches could try to sabotage that pick because they just don't want to deal with him and his father texting them during the game. So now we're seeing, oh no, you need a headstrong owner who really wants him to get involved in order for him to be a first-round pick. I don't think that is what is necessary for him to be a first-round pick. He's going in the first round. That was what I thought needed to happen for him to go top 5 or top 10. But now they're saying that's necessary for him to be a first-round pick? What?
We're at the point with Shedeur Sanders that you just can't believe anything at this point. And we're at that stage of the draft, right? Like of the draft season. Going to that
what do you think's going on with this? What's happening,
no one,
dude? What
no one knows
this?
any truth. Everything's a lie and everything's the truth right now, especially with because we know ever since the Titans honed in on Cam Ward, you have to play the song and dance of like, well, there's only one other guy, or maybe two if it's Jackson Dart, but Jackson Dart kind of was always dependent on how aggressive the Shedeur Sanders get drafted because of the way the draft falls this year. You know, pick 9 is that firewall. We talked about it. Pick 9 is that top 10 firewall. If the Saints don't take a quarterback, you don't, without a trade up, because trade ups they exist, but you have to guess on what they're going to be. You don't get to pick 21 till it's like a team that needs a quarterback. So we really again are just flying blind here. I do think Shedeur Sanders would work in some of those early spots. And the Deion thing, some teams might treat it as a pro though, right? Like some teams actually might be treating it as like he has a second head coach. This guy's been preparing him to play in the NFL. He played in the NFL at a high level. Some teams might be treating it as a pro. Some teams will be saying like, it's hands off. I don't want to deal with that. Like, could it be a problem later on? What I will say for us though, is Shedeur Sanders is a pretty easy evaluation for us. He's just not the archetype that's going to be like probably turn out very many QB1 seasons. So like, who gives a shit? Like, I mean, I hate to say it, like he's just going to be a streaming QB2 type. Like he's going to have pockets where like you play matchups with him and maybe run into some seasons where he's a low end QB1 and the right like seasons where he runs hot in terms of touchdown departments. But that's the problem with this rookie class in general at the quarterback position is we just don't have any guys that fit that archetype, even Cam Ward. And then also we're seeing teams now in the NFL eject on quarterback and willing to take on more sunk cost earlier than we ever have. I mean, look at these quarterbacks. We talked about Justin Fields on his third team already, first round pick. That whole draft class, that whole Mac Jones, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, like those guys are on their third and fourth teams.
They're all gone.
Like teams, Anthony Richardson, we talk about his team. His head coach wants him to compete with Daniel Jones in his third year.
It's over. It's over. I think did Arizona break the seal on this with how they ejected Josh Rosen so early after one season?
But we're seeing it too. So like, from a fantasy stance, I actually think from a Superflex, we're going to even overvalue Cam Ward a little bit just because we believe that position is currency. But if you've been drafting the position just on currency, it hasn't been that fruitful these past couple of years. Now, last year's class was legitimately good. And we hit on a lot of those guys. But
their upside in Superflex, man. You're going to so in Superflex, if you're at the 102, you're not going Cam Ward. No, and you said that certainly. You said that pretty decisively.
Because again, I think the running backs there, if they're able to give me an RB1 season, even just one, it's going to be more valuable than the best season Cam Ward gives me.
Really?
Yes.
Cam Ward's the 101. Now, I know the 101 could be Jared Goff, but Jared Goff also could luck box the perfect situation and be, a fringe QB1.
But he's not a runner. Cam Ward is a guy that's going to have to throw a lot of touchdown passes in the NFL. And that position, even in Superflex QB2 leagues, that pocket of guy is nebulous and rotates every year. You're going to get a Baker Mayfield. You're going to get a Jared Goff. You're going to get a Sam Darnold. You're going to get a Geno Smith. Those guys every year. Every year we get those guys. You can always – that's why in one QB leagues, they aren't valuable. That's why they're number
worth
one
nothing.
Rate. That's why C.J. Stroud was a terrible pick last year in one quarterback leagues because it has nothing to do with C.J. Stroud. It's the archetype of quarterback he is because he has to throw 40 passing touchdowns. We lived it with Justin Herbert for 3 years. We're probably going to do it with Burrow, unfortunately, this year. Burrow's probably going to be overdrafted in one QB league.
Of course he is. Burrow was number one in every category last year just based on volume. That's not sustainable, man. And
we've seen what happened with Mahomes. Mahomes was supposed to be the guy that was like proof of that archetype.
No,
like he was bust proof.
He's not
in the last 2 years. In the last 2 years, he was a terrible 1 QB draft pick.
Some of these guys, their defense is too damn good.
You have to, but so Cam Ward is entering the NFL where he's going to have to throw 35 plus touchdowns in a given year to basically be the like high end QB1. And is he capable of having those seasons? Yes. Is it a situation where I'm going to just willingly bet on those? No, I'm not. So, and that's what archetype all these guys fall into, unfortunately. So that's kind of the rub here. It's a QB class that we're not going to ignore in Superflex. We kind of can. We really kind of can. I don't think there's anyone draftable after Milroe in 2 QB leagues.
You must believe in that case that Cam Ward is significantly worse than Caleb Williams as a prospect.
I think Caleb Williams had that same problem and was overdrafted.
Yeah, but he's retained his value in Superflex.
You can't
trade.
Well, wait a second. If the Bears don't hire Ben Johnson, where does Caleb Williams go?
That's a good question. Even a guy like Michael Penix, is his value is right there with a Marion Hampton and Travion Henderson right now.
I mean, that's definitely getting priced in with Caleb for sure.
No, Caleb is worth more than those guys, but like, it's just with Cam Ward, it's the 101. And I will say what's interesting about him is that he was not a top quarterback prospect. He came in as a wishbone quarterback that had no recruiting profile. And he's not, what's interesting about him is he's not one of these factory farmed quarterbacks. Right? The Manchurian quarterbacks that we keep seeing now that Thor Nystrom talks about. Cam Ward is interesting to me in that way. And if he's going to just scrape and claw and get himself drafted 1 overall to the Titans and has like a 4,500 yard season as a sophomore, repeats that but with a much better yards per attempt and completion percentage and a great touchdown interception ratio this year, I like it. I mean, I kind of like him, man. I know he's been he bounced around college football. In Superflex, I get it, man. Yeah, Henderson would be the guy that I would.
So I wrote an article on this last year.
This is a very difficult decision for people right now in Superflex with the 102, 103, 104.
I think you should be cautious unless it's like a dire team need. And if it is, then you find that gamer that is a dire team need for, and you get them to come pay for that pick. You at least shop it to them. Like if I'm out,
gonna be a starting. He's not going to be Anthony Richardson. He's going to be a starting quarterback for at least 5 years as the 101. And I don't think might even have a second life if he busts.
I don't think you could say that. I don't think you can actually say that at this point. With the way we've seen turnover at the quarterback position now, I don't think that exists. Look at these first round picks that if they end up not hitting, teams are moving on quicker than ever.
We haven't seen that from a 101 yet.
We're gonna put it to the test probably.
I know I think we're on the precipice of it happening to a 101, but
a lot of 102s, 103s, a lot of those guys though. So
never had a season with 10 or more interceptions. Had that prolific year at Miami.
So here it is. So I wrote an article on this on the site. QDAP. So going back the last decade, looking at quarterbacks that were drafted as QB1s, just to give you some context to how historical this archetype busts at.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of really great passers that get picked with this capital. So going back the past decade, guys that are drafted as QB1s in fantasy football that do not average more than 2 rushing attempts per game. Just 15 of those 50 players matched their ADP in scoring. Just 7 of those players turned in a top 3 scoring season. The last QB1 to kind of be over 2 rushes per game was Drew Brees back in 2012. Like that the archetype is dead, man. Like that pocket passer guy is dead.
What about Burrow last year?
Burrow just he did run a little bit more, But you're always going to get these guys. So what that does is it creates the door open, because Burrow is going to have a handful of 40 passing touchdowns on his career, right? That's why his dynasty value holds value from like a top-down career stance. He's going to play till he's 40, and he's probably going to have several 40 passing touchdown seasons. That's why his dynasty value doesn't take a hit. We're talking like one QB redraft in a given season. He's probably going to be overdrafted more seasons than not, because he's able to be arbitraged when he throws 28 touchdowns.
Oh, yeah. No, you can play that game in one
touchdowns.
QB all day.
Yep. All day you can play it. So because you're always going to get
by all means play. We're talking Superflex here. It's a different ball game, man.
Yeah. So from like that archetype gets overdrafted. But like that's where Ward's going to be, and like you're counting on Ward being Burrow as like a ceiling. It's just probably a unrealistic like thing to compare him to. But we'll just say,
what about Stroud? What about just saying Stroud?
Yeah, Stroud
you're
would be
hoping
a guy.
He's Stroud.
But, yeah.
I'm drafting him thinking he's Stroud, and it feels like a prudent move.
Where would you have him last year with last year's quarterbacks?
That's the problem. I don't know.
I think I would have him over.
I know he's very Michael Penix to me. And the thing is, the irony there is like he was at Washington State. They were like in-state rivals, right? And Penix was better. So
I think recently we have just a lot of examples where you got to be a little cautious drafting on the pure currency angle of players that don't fit like an elite profile.
I wish he was a little more prolific in college. I really do. I wish he had a 40 touchdown season that wasn't at Incarnate Ward. I wish that, yeah. I mean, 9.5 yards per attempt. I mean, he hit these bars, these TD interception bars, the yards per attempt bars at a major conference. He hit the thresholds that you like to see. He just happened to do it in his 5th year, which is, again, not great. Not great. I know that. But is it not meaningful that we're at this point in the process and he's already locked in as the 101? Does that help you?
I mean, it helps me from in context of this particular draft class, but like he's still not someone I'm excited to make that pick on. I would definitely, if
you're going Hampton, you're going Judkins, you're going Henderson.
If I'm at clock at 104, yeah, I mean, I am. I just think it's shifted in recent years, because you could have made that argument for Kenny Pickett. You could have made that argument for and these guys are their value's largely dead. We've seen some guys.
I thought Kenny Pickett. The reason you liked him is, or you could have. My argument for him was that he was a scrambler. That even though he doesn't have the top 10 draft capital, that he is a scrambler. This is the opposite argument. We're accepting he's not a scrambler, but we're drafting him because he could be a prolific passer. He could be a C.J. Stroud level passer in the NFL, and projects to be. Actually, just not could be, projects to be. Because he would have put up C.J. Stroud's numbers at Ohio State. Yeah, he wasn't throwing to Restrepo.
Elijah Arroyo wasn't doing it. He had Kyle Williams at Washington State, to be fair.
Kyle Williams is getting a lot of steam.
He should be. He's good. Good player.
So what do you think about Kyle? Is this another guy that you would draft in the 3rd, 4th round? I mean, like I said, we have these exceptions that we've made. We've made these exceptions with Iowa State wide receivers. But generally speaking, you and I are on the same page. We're going running back in round 2, 3, 4, 5 of rookie drafts. You got to. Unless there's going to be this overcorrection like we're seeing this year, and RB thirst is going to be like we've never seen, and somehow Higgins makes it to the 3rd round. Otherwise, we're going running back, right?
Yeah, we want to go running back in a vacuum, but everyone also is thinking that too. So you got to find ways to pivot.
This is new, by the way. This is new. I think sometimes I go on these podcasts and they're like, "Yeah, we know running back in pretty much after the."
We
first
want
round.
to, but if the other 11
it wasn't
gamers
like
in
this
your
even a couple of years ago.
If the other 11 gamers in your league are doing the same thing.
Well, now we have to, yes. Now, if that's the case, at some point, you've got to draft Higgins and Knoll.
Yeah, exactly. Well, even again, it's pushing down guys like Burden, and we know we're gonna have capital like Buka, Golden. Like I said, I'm not even in on Burden or Golden. Like from an analytical stance, like they are guys that I believe fit archetypes that have been really tight needles to thread and get right for fantasy football senses. But we're removing a lot of the risk that they would have carried in previous years, right? Like you're not taking these guys now at 106, 107. You're taking Burden at 112, 201, and Golden at 206, 207, right? Like we're removing that.
Kind of love Golden
now,
at the 206, 207. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, you kind of, yeah, it's like, so you're going to have to play this out. Because if the rest of your draft is doing like I said, I have live drafts going right now. And they're all hammering running backs. And eventually my plan coming in was like, oh, I'll be able to get a good player. I'll be able to get this player here. And it's like, oh, he's gone. Already gone. And not even on a team yet. He's not even on a team yet. He's gone. Because everyone's doing the same thing.
Would you rather Travion Henderson go to Dallas or Cincinnati if you had to pick?
I don't know if it really matters. I would say Dallas initially for sure, just because of because I don't know what matters for Henderson. I know what role he's going to have regardless, but he has more of a pipeline to be like the 3-down player on Dallas's roster, obviously.
But what about the offense? The access to that offense, and if he's just a straight up better player than Chase,
that's kind of why I gave
Brown on day one. I think that's why it's an interesting question.
That's why I gave it kind of a quick pause. Like I was like, all right, well, if he like are 200 touches in Cincinnati more valuable than 270 touches in Dallas? Like that's the question you ask yourself. But I always will just play opportunity forward first. But I can definitely see an argument. But I don't want to get too in the weeds on like if a guy goes here, because what if they don't go there and we just wasted all this time before the draft?
Rich. It's April 15th. Rich.
I know.
This is what we're doing. You can't just nullify this entire podcast with one statement.
What?
Rich!
Well, I don't want to play the guessing game and go on a list like this guy goes to these 32 teams. Like I don't know, like sure.
Well, I asked the question because it is a window into like what matters, and that there is going to a place like Cincinnati, Chase Brown or not, you want access to all those touchdowns. That's the bottom line.
Where are all these people that say like Bryce Young has held value? Bryce Young has held no dynasty value. He still doesn't like. He's hanging on for dear life. He's like QB 24. But he's literally clinging to dear life, where he was as a rookie like QB 11.
I think Bryce Young is the cautionary tale, right? He's the canary in the coal mine for the 101, because they benched him for Andy Dalton in year 2. We hadn't seen that before. This is a new world that we're in, including for 101s.
Not in week 8. He got benched in week 3. He was that bad the opening 2 weeks that Dave Canales was like, dude, I can't watch this anymore.
Yeah,
to be fair,
that is the risk on Cam Ward.
Earlier,
and like I said, Judkins and Henderson in particular, they're locks. They're locks. And Hampton is a full-blown all-purpose guy. You could argue that because he has the size on Genty, that Hampton actually if you're just looking at how many boxes Player X checks, technically checks more boxes than Genty. It's just that Genty's just better in every way. Just doesn't quite have the size. Who is the most overrated rookie prospect in this class?
I mean, it's tough are we doing this based on like where they're going to get drafted in real life or where they're going to be drafted in rookie
How
drafts?
about both, Rich?
I'll say, real life, it's probably Golden, just from the stance of like how many of these guys have really produced, right? Like the Philip Dorsetts, the AJ Jenkins, right? Like these unproductive speedsters that get pushed into the first round. I would say that, but again,
it's hard to believe that guys like Kadarius Toney went in the first round, but they did.
In their draft classes too, like at least like Kadarius Toney was in a draft class that was like had good players in it. Like Golden is you always worry the double dip for Golden is that like he's also in a draft class that's not that intoxicating. So will the draft capital also get propelled because there's just not a lot of good guys at the top. So you have that worry too with some of these guys too, that like some of these first round receivers, honestly too, like we could be looking at, when we're a week from now, when this draft happens that fewer wide receivers even get the kind of capital we were hoping for. Because when you look at a lot of these teams that pick in the back half of the first round, they might not even be taking wide receivers, right? Like,
well, this was the argument that Cody made for how Noel slips to like the late third.
Right. Well, I think once you get into day 2, like it's just kind of all bets are off, and like you could see teams start to just take their guys. Like that happened with Jaden Reed, right? Like I like Jaden Reed as a prospect and was into him, and then it was like, oh, the Packers took him way higher than even I thought they were like he was going to go.
Yeah.
So like day 2 could be a shoot your shot pick for sure. So like Nola is one of those guys I definitely believe has a wider range of outcomes because I believe that there are teams that absolutely like really like him. So when you have probably multiple teams that really like a player, they might fear the fact that they might miss out on that player and therefore take him higher than what was projected. I definitely think Noel could be one of those guys. I think Kyle Williams is one of those guys too, by the way. I think Kyle Williams has a contingency of teams that definitely value him, and there could be an arms race to say like, oh, I know these 3 teams really like him too.
Oh, man.
We better just take him now. So I do think that exists as well.
Yeah, I was on the FF Dynasty podcast, and the great Chev from Player Profiler, he took Kyle Williams, and I was like, that's too early. You can't take him there. I was insistent, and now you're seeing a lot of buzz around Kyle Williams. It's like, oh, I'm like, whoa, this guy was on the front of the wave. I was not aware that this ADP could climb this high on a guy like Kyle, and then the NFL loves him more than I realize, and all of a sudden I look like a total idiot. So that's in play. Chev could be big right, and I could be big wrong on Kyle Williams. So
Those two
I'm
guys,
looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to it.
Noel, Kyle Williams, I think will be those guys, and Jack Besh from TCU, I think has like there are going to be multiple teams that want to take him as well.
How do you feel about Jack Besh?
I mean, I'm mixed on it a little bit, but then you go back to like this guy, you know, as a freshman, you know, as at LSU, like got on the field and, you know, caught 40 balls on a team that had Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas on it, you know, can play inside out, which I think is what's value. And like, that's what I think has hurt some of these guys like the Trey Harris and Jaden Higgins a little bit, is that the NFL teams value the inside out play more than ever. Considering where the NFL is right now. So it's going to push those guys up the boards a little bit for some teams, especially the offenses that they're going to be probably attached to.
He is exemplary of what I don't like about this class. I know there's a lot of people that like him.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
And, you know, we try our best with these comps. And, you know, sometimes it's like, well, the film community is super bullish on this guy. Let's, see if we could, guide the comp into an area where there's a little more stylistic similarity. Even if the numbers don't quite show it, this guy stylistically is very similar to this guy. And then sometimes the comp can be adjusted on occasion. The problem is, for this class, even if you were trying to go, find best case comps for all these guys, it's hard. I look up and Jack Besh is best comparable to Josh Palmer. And I see this time and time and time again. Just average to below average wide receivers are clustering all around the comps for this class. And I'm like, I just can't get excited about these guys, because there's plenty of great receivers that they could comp to. It's just that they're not in that universe. And now I'm talking myself into another Josh Palmer. People have talked themselves into Josh Palmer since I ever started fantasy football. It's been a tale as old as time, especially with receiver.
But again, you better start finding some pivots, because you're going to get in these drafts and find out these your plan to take all these running backs. Everyone else has that same plan.
I know. And it's very interesting. Aomanar, Higgins, Noel, these are some pivots, right? Can you give us a late round wide receiver pivot? Someone, let's say that there's just Raheem Sanders is off the board. All these running backs are off the board, but there's a receiver you still like and you're willing to push the button on him, even though it's a low probability pick.
Low probability guys. There are probably some darts we could throw down here. Some really gross players, right? Like, let's find some gross guys down here.
Like a fourth, fifth round where you would actually go, and normally it's a running back. Process wise, it's a running back, but you're like,
Yeah,
listen,
more often than not, it will be, a running back. But I would say, well, yeah, and it would have to be like Brashard Smith has to be off the board too.
of
being off
course.
the board of running backs. But if it wide receivers alone, so let's deep dig in the bag of running.
Oh, by the
backs,
way,
I'll
would you
say.
put Jaden Blue in that category because he's a pass catcher and he went to
Yep.
Texas and he
Yep.
wasn't afforded the same number of opportunities as most players and went to smaller schools like SMU?
He's a good ass pass catcher too.
I
Really
know.
good pass. That's what we didn't talk about Devin. That's what makes Devin Neal so appealing too. Is he does like he does like everything, like not great, but does everything really well. And I think there's going to be teams that value that as well.
I like Devin Neal.
But some wide receivers at the end here. We'll do them in layers here. Where like probably all Saturday picks. I'll say Torrey Horton would be like the first guy that kind of stands out. Transferred to Colorado State from Nevada. First year at CSU was absolutely really good. He was on track for another strong season last year before the knee injury. Has experience as a punt returner. Because again, when you're picking these day 3 guys, you want them to have outs to make rosters, right? So if you have that like return profile, what do you guys call it? Is it dynamic score?
Dynamic score, yeah.
Yeah. So he has that profile where he has the return. He can make a team as a returner, kind of cut his teeth there, wait for a receiving opportunity to open up, get on the field there. He's also a good athlete. And even off that knee injury, he was 70th percentile. Elijah Badger.
Wait, guess who Torrey Horton is best comparable to?
Ooh, you've hit me.
Robbie Anderson. Chosen Robbie Anderson.
All right. Yeah, the chosen one. All right.
But this is what I'm talking about. It is what you're talking. Yeah. Continue.
Yeah. How excited are you to make these picks again? But Elijah Badger would be the next guy. Again, has that like big play profile, has the return pedigree in his background. But again, he's a guy who's never hit 1,000 yards in a college season. He's just under 3 yards per outrun. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, but 5th in this class in rate of career catches. They went for first down or touchdown. Oh. He's 200 pounds, fast. Ja'Cory Brooks would be the other guy to watch from Louisville. Part of the reason why I believe Tyler Shuck's even getting consideration of being a player that some teams want to draft is because of Ja'Cory Brooks. But
first round pick, apparently.
Yeah. Oh, no. So here, remove the dynasty aspect in Q2Bs. When's the last quarterback that's a dead statue quarterback in the NFL that's worked out? That guy's dead.
At this point, you have to have like a Stroud, Burrow level escapability.
Yes, Herbert, those guys they have a little mobility. They're pocket passers first, but they can scramble.
Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, like is it Stafford? Like Stafford, Kirk Cousins? Like
no, Stafford's athletic.
I would say Stafford's like the last.
Stafford is less athletic now. Yeah. He's had the back injuries, but he was an athlete coming out of Georgia.
But if you can't move at all now, if you're just like a dead statue,
would you say Jared Goff is in that category?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I would. Okay, Goff, I would give.
Yeah, Goff is less. I think Goff and I would say Goff and Cousins both less athletic than Stafford. But at this point, you're right. Yeah. Stafford is now a statue. Cousins was too statuesque. Couldn't get it done. That was
if you're an NFL team drafting Shuck, like you're really grasping. I feel like that type of player, I just don't think is like you better be Tom fucking Brady, man.
He had a great Senior Bowl. They sent a lot of guys to the Senior Bowl.
No, you guys are way late now. Now you guys are bringing up guys that that got drafted 15, 20 years ago. I'm talking about like recent years.
It's not me that was reporting first round for Tyler Shuck.
Recent years, like that, like we're in a different era of football.
Why don't you take it up with Albert Brooks or whoever, Albert Breer?
Yeah, you guys are trying to bring up Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers ran a whole career already.
Yeah, Albert Breer or Albert Brooks, pick one. Okay. Chiefs and Patriots.
And that's the problem with McCord too, by the way. That's like the problem with like trying to say like McCord. Like McCord is the same. Like he doesn't move.
I agree. This is a terrible year for quarterback. I think if it was truly merit based and based on what the tools We'd had one quarterback in the first round. That would be it. But that's not going to happen. We know that.
No, never does.
We know that. We know. But I mean, Shuck is a bridge too far, man.
Exactly.
That's a bridge too far. Not going to happen.
Because not even is Chuck old, like he's not experienced. It's like last year when like we had like the COVID stuff that impacted like Bo Nix, like because Bo Nix started like 60 career college games, but he had like all this experience. Shuck's not even experienced. Jalen Milrow's the only quarterback in this class that has fewer dropbacks than Shuck in his career. So he's not even experienced either. Dude, he was recruited the same year as Trevor Lawrence.
What?
Yeah, he's in the same recruiting class as Trevor Lawrence.
Stop it.
He was Justin Herbert's backup.
If I needed a quarterback, you know what I would do? I would do everything I could to try to trade for Tyson Bagent.
Oh, you should just try to lose all 17 games.
I think Tyson Bagent's underrated. I think he could be very good. Because he was the best quarterback at the Senior Bowl I attended a few years back. And he went to a small school and was totally disregarded for a lot. So basically, I think that's like best case for Tyler Shuck. But the thing is, Bagent is mobile, right? And he's going to be a backup to somebody. Shuck will be. Bagent has a hell of a lot more upside than even Shuck because of the mobility. And just happens to also be a quarterback who was the best at his particular Senior Bowl. I don't even think it's that easy to get a guy like that. I think if a team likes their backup quarterback, I don't think they're going to just let him go. I think if he's entrenched. I mean,
we don't even have 32. We don't even have 32 good quarterbacks on the planet right now, let alone be able to get backup guys that are useful.
You're not there. I can guarantee it would not be easy to get him in trade. Chiefs and Patriots are reportedly in the market for a dynamic back in the draft. Spoiler alert, by the way.
Who is it?
Between Stevenson and Pacheco, who do you think is more vulnerable?
Oh, definitely Pacheco.
Isn't he though? I mean, seventh round Pacheco was.
He's a UFA. He's in the last
sell
year of his
high
rookie
of my lifetime.
He's in the last year of his rookie contract, and he might not. We have a small sample of him even having an opportunity to be a lead back, and it's the Chiefs. The Chiefs play everybody too. So whoever the Chiefs do draft, everyone's playing.
So
I think the Chiefs receivers from a dynasty stance are probably a more interesting conversation because who cannibalizes who, right? Worthy took off the back half of the year when he got the Rashee Rice treatment, where he got access to we talk about those free squares, getting those slot targets. Now, if we have to put all these guys back on the field all at once, who gets what? I mean, I would still lean it was probably Rashee Rice, right?
It's Rashee Rice.
Because he fits that profile. He's a lot more rugged after the catch than Worthy is. But that becomes more interesting of, the conversation.
I think because of what Worthy did, it makes Rice a buy-in dynasty a little easier to acquire.
Yeah, I mean, I love both those guys at their redraft ADPs right now where it's opened in these initial best ball leagues, like Hammer and those guys.
A lot can go right for Rice, by the way.
Yeah. Yes.
A lot can break his way.
I see Drew Davenport also tweeting about there's a non-zero chance he even doesn't get suspended this year.
That's right.
So coming
that's
back.
Right. That's right. Rashee Rice is a smash. Absolute smash. He's another guy that's his value has been retained like Rome Odunze in Dynasty.
I like it. But definitely
Pacheco is
not that Stevenson's safe. He's just not.
Pacheco's dead. Stevenson is on life support at this point. Now, Genti goes to the Jets. How much do you hate it?
I don't. It's like I said, I think that'll be if he's going that high, it's going to be nebulous. That means either Breece Hall's not on the roster or moving forward next year, and
Breece Hall is a commander.
Hopefully, yeah, that'd be a win-win for all parties.
It'd be a win-win. It'd be fine. I think it'd be fine. It's interesting. We always think of running backs because it's true.
Because
Running
we've done
backs
this
are-
with the high picks, though, right? Because we did it with like Gibbs a couple years ago, Bijan Robinson 2 years ago, like where it's like, oh, it's initially crowded. He's not going to get the year one usage, and like look where those dudes are valued.
Oh yeah. So running back, very situation dependent, right? They need access to touchdowns. They want to be in an offense where, especially with a pocket passer that likes to check down and likes to throw to running backs, that's the ideal. That's the Alvin Kamara season we talked about. The Alvin Kamara 25 fantasy points per game season. Very situation dependent. And yet, we talk about a guy like Genti, it doesn't really matter where he lands. So for the draft, does landing spot matter more for running back or for wide receivers?
For initial opportunity, definitely for running backs than it does wide receivers, just because there's so many things, other things in play at wide receivers, like your target tree, how nebulous is that? Your quarterback play, how nebulous is that? Like there's just all these things that change, right? Whereas running backs, we still care about opportunity first, and are you able to get opportunity? So I would definitely still lean running back in that regard.
But for many years, it was a situation agnostic with wide receivers. That was the attitude in Dynasty. But after what we've seen with Garrett Wilson in particular, no. Those days are over. People are now factoring in landing spot more for wide receiver than they ever have, and I think appropriately.
Sometimes good, sometimes bad, right? Like we did it with Chiefs receivers all the way until we finally got Rashee Rice to hit. But who remembers Sky Moore going like 106 in rookie drafts, or McCole Hardman as the Tyreek stuff hung in balance?
Maybe the rule is that it's a reason to discount receivers more than it's a reason to elevate them.
I still think it matters because like Keon Coleman was a guy that I never even blinked and moved up last year, even getting attachment to Josh Allen. Like I never even blinked and was like, I'm pushing him up because of this. I just never believed in the player.
Right. You can't push a guy up because you like the situation. If he can't play, he can't play.
Correct. But Ladd McConkey was inverse, right? Like Ladd McConkey got increased value because we thought Ladd could play, and then he went to just like a wide open target tree attached to a quarterback that was going to have a stable quarterback. No matter what you think about the Justin Herbert argument and like where he should be ranked among quarterbacks, Justin Herbert's a stable quarterback.
Oh, very, very stable. Even technically, Trevor Lawrence is stable.
Correct.
For Brian Thomas, that's a stable quarterback situation. Even if you think he's overrated, which probably is, stable. Hey man, that was 9 burning questions. We have 10. Here we go.
Oh, so
burning question number 10. What is your bold prediction for this season or the draft? Give it. You decide. You want to do a bold prediction for the draft, a bold prediction for the fantasy season? Give us something. Get you out of here.
I wish I had something super hot for you, but I never do. I'm too pragmatic to have hot takes for you. I'm looking at Dynasty, or not Dynasty ADP. Well, it is true in Dynasty too, but rookie draft ADP. I don't understand the gap between Drake May and Bo Nix, so I need that to make sense to me. But I think Drake May outright.
Wait, is this your bold prediction that you don't understand an ADP?
Good. I don't know. I'm just that I think Drake May.
What about a bold prediction? Here it is. I have it for you. You ready? Let me help you.
Bold predictions.
I'm happy to do this with you. Let's link arms. We'll do this together. Okay. I feel like this is Stevie Wonder with Bob Dylan. And We Are the World. Okay.
Rookie drafts, both tight ends are going to be overdrafted. That's a hot take.
No. I think we can do it. Let's think about what's best case scenario outcome for Drake May, because I love where your head's at with Drake May.
Okay.
Get hot. Let's get hot with Drake May. Let's do this. Come on.
I mean, the fact that I don't think he could throw enough passing touchdowns to get like top 3 status. That's just a realism. I mean, see, this is I'm too pragmatic for this bullshit. That
you're too damn accurate for this shit.
You try to pull me into these hot ass takes, and I just don't have that. I don't have that gene, man.
You don't. But what if the Patriots draft?
Apparently, people
what
thought
if they draft Higgins?
My hot take was that you should trade 104 if Cam Warren's on the board. That's my hot take, I guess.
That's your hot take.
Chat thought it was a hot take, and then the chat thought literally mathematically the guy that broke the fewest amount of tackles was not a good was like I was mad at him for that. Like it wasn't
maybe
a good tackle.
You know what? I think in the history of this show, people have always been able to come up with something that was wild and crazy.
I pretty much always push back on this every time you get me.
And for once, why don't we just say, "Fuck your question, Podfather"? It's a stupid question. It's not that helpful. That's not what I do. You know what? We're just gonna end the show on no takes. We gave you, well over 2 hours of incredible analysis, and that sometimes, you know what? Sometimes that just is enough. Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.